I'm here. I'm here. I promise I'm here. I'm right here. There we go. I was definitely not losing track of time. That's definitely not what happened. And I definitely don't have a gazillion people messaging me at the moment. That's not true. I have one person messaging me, and it's my mother. um, sorry. I can't ignore my mother. Come on. How's everyone doing today? Hey, Jugga, how you doing, buddy? Um, Alright. There we go. Cool. Alright, I have responded. There we go. Okay, so today we're gonna do a bit of a different stream. Oh, I've been thinking about doing this for a while, because it needs to get done, and I was thinking, we're talking smack. We're gonna talk smack tonight. So here's the thing, right? I mean, Jagger, you may have discussed it already a bit as well. There's plenty of really, really, really bad advice out there. Like, there really is, and it is not. It's not even accidental bad advice. It is like allegedly, allegedly, as in I am alleging this. This is purposefully bad advice, right? And we're gonna look at some of that today, and we are going to discuss it, and we're going to debunk it, one video at a time, one post at a time, because honestly, I don't see myself, because I don't want to become a YouTuber. I don't see myself spending, I don't know, 50 hours or 100 hours or 1,000 hours investigating a guy with all of his videos, and then making like a super nicely crafted video out of it. I just don't see myself doing that. Like, that's not where I'll find the fun in talking about game development. So, but like on the flip side, I still find it super important to call out shit. So yeah, we're gonna do that. We're basically gonna do that. I've no idea how this is gonna impact. Please feel free to share bad advice that you received in the chat. And also just let's have a chat, right? Let's talk. Like, feel free to disagree. Like, if I say something and you think to yourself that's a load of shit, you know, tell me about it, right? Let's have that discussion. We need to. Before we do that, though, I have the funniest video in the world, or at least I thought it was very funny, and I want to share that before before we dive into this. So let me pause the music real quick. Okay, let me press the button. Here we go. I thought this was incredibly funny. This dude is cleaning the ice off of his car window using just recently freshly boiled water, right? Like water that's at 100 degrees Celsius, right? Uh, and I love this video. I love it. I love his face. I love that the window just pops. I love that the door handle pops off as well. Like, that's how intense the thermal pressure is on the materials. Look here, the door handle is just fine. And, and his face, as soon as this happens, he's like, "Ah, shit." Oh god, I can't believe I find it this funny. But just every time I come back to this video, I have it in my saved on Reddit. Every time I come back to this video, it makes me so happy. Oh, I love this. I love this. It's so good. Right. Here we go. I changed that, and I've changed that. There we go. All right, let's just dive into it, because Jesus Christ. And I think we're gonna start to get ourselves warmed up. We're gonna start with something a little easy, because I know exactly where we're starting. And Jagu, I think you know where we're starting too. Where is this man? Because, oh god, he's full of shit. And not a little bit either. And it's not like I'm cherry picking here either. Like, this is...
Hey guys, my name is Thomas.
You could already hear it in the background there. Let me turn off the music. We're gonna look at Thomas Brush. Because holy hell. This man is full of shit. like, like, oof, full of shit, right? And you know what I'm gonna do, just because I can. Um, actually, yeah, why not? Yeah. Okay, cool. I've adjusted the title of the stream to Thomas Brush is full of shit. Because he is. He is. Now, for those of you that don't know who Thomas Brush is, he is, according to himself, he is a full-time indie game developer who has released 2 games, Neversong and the other one.
Hey guys, my name is Tom.
Nope, stop. Neversong and something else. No, Silk Song and Neversong. I don't know. He's released 2 games on multiple platforms. He's on Nintendo Switch. He got his game on PS4, Xbox One. You know, by all means, you could say someone who has a lot of experience in the indie game dev scene, and someone who you could reliably take advice from, right? That would make sense. Like if I saw someone that had 308,000 subscribers, and who never really fails to remind you that he has 2 full-on released games and stuff like that, yeah, I can understand how anyone starting out in game development would want to listen to what Thomas has to say. Now, that is a particularly bad idea, because Thomas is full of shit. Why is Thomas full of shit? So, if we specifically go back into the videos, the first video I saw of Thomas was a video... was it this one? I think it was this one. It was this video. We'll skip the ad real quick. And I'm starting with this video, but oh boy, there is more to unpack. There is a lot to unpack. I have like roughly an hour and a half. I hope I can get through it all. Let's take a look. I'm gonna not focus on the semantics of whatever this is, right? This might be enjoyable for people. Like, this is totally fine if that entertains people. That's totally fine. It's not a problem. And I won't focus on any of those semantics or stuff like that. I'm purely talking about the game dev advice that he gives, right? And I am going to just quickly put the speed to 1.25 just so we can get through this stuff a little quicker.
Not deleting my game. Not really. I mean, I'm changing a lot. Let's talk about it. I'm scrapping a huge chunk of what we've made, like the name Father. Yeah, that's going away. And we're scrapping the game's entire plot, a ton of mechanics. Sure, we're keeping the core, the weapons.
Okay, so... okay, so he's scrapping the name, he's scrapping a ton of plot, he's scrapping a ton of mechanics. What is he keeping, right? What is he keeping?
Yeah, that's going away. And we're scrapping the game's entire plot, a ton of mechanics. Sure, we're keeping the core, the weapons, some of the enemies, but that's about it. The rest of it is changing. And at the end of this video...
So he's keeping the core, some of the enemies, and some of the weapons, right? Immediately, there's a disconnect there, because he just said he was scrapping a bunch of the mechanics, and a bunch of the plot, and a bunch of everything else, but he's keeping all this content, right? But this content needs to live within a set of mechanics that he's supposedly scrapping.
Hopefully, you'll understand why. Maybe you'll say, I'm a genius, or...
God, the flashing on when the gun fires is insane.
Maybe you'll say I'm overthinking things. Let me know in the comments. I really want to know. Also, we're going to vote on a new name. I'm kind of nervous. All right, here we go. And by the way, guys, me and Jason Wyman are launching a...
Okay, now, here, Teletubbies get to stay, hell yeah. Yeah. Oh man, all the members of this video are now coming back to me, and it's getting me so frustrated. So this is the very first point where, in my opinion, every game dev YouTuber that goes about doing what you'll see in the next minute or so, you should just instantly just remove from your subscribe list and just, you know, move on to the next one. Move on to the person that's actually trying to teach you something.
a huge program backed by Unity, and it's called the Ultimate Game Dev Course. Enrollment for this 140 plus hour program begins today, and it lasts for just 30 days. There's just 150 seats available. These usually sell out. For today only, you're gonna get a free hoodie. It includes everything both Jason and I have learned in starting our own game studios. From Jason, you're gonna learn everything technical. From me, you're gonna learn all about securing 6 figures from publishers and crowdfunding, marketing, and going full-time indie. You'll also learn both 2D and 3D art from me, an indie actually in the trenches, making his own indie games full-time. Click below to take advantage of that $100 off, plus the free hoodie, and join over 10,000 students worldwide. All right, so the original game was...
Okay, so 140 hours worth of content, only 150 seats available for online pre-recorded content. Okay, sure. $100 off today, 10,000 students worldwide, lots of 5-star reviews that came by. Surely that is amazing. Right? That is awesome. That is great. You're gonna learn so much. You're gonna learn amazing stuff. Where is the actual link to the actual course that he is? Oh yeah, Pinstripe and Neversong. That was the name of the 2 games. Where's the actual link? He removed it, didn't he? Yeah, he definitely removed it. Come on. Show me. Show me the money. Okay, so now it's 3,000 students worldwide. Cool. That just went down by 7,000 students. There's 4 reviews in total, and I've looked. There are no other places where you can find reviews. It's just these 4, right? There's no, what's it called? Like Game to TV, or and even Game to TV isn't that amazing. There's no other place where you can find any validation that any of his courses are worth anything, besides these 4 reviews. And here as well, there's 2 guys, right? Like, I could get Jagu, and I could get 6 of my colleagues at work who have very impressive resumes, and I could put them on a website, and then they could say, oh, Chris, he's such a great guy, and he's amazing, and he will teach you everything from how to fly to how to make great games. And, you know, who are you to question that, right? So potentially, come on, show me the money. Okay. There we go. That's what I mean. You can also see the course curriculum, and it is a total of about 31 hours, if I remember correctly. Nice, cool. So, $997, right? Taking this late Black Friday deal thing out of the equation, $997 for 140 hours worth of content. Pre-recorded content. These are not live classes. This is pre-recorded content, right? Of 2 guys, right? Because that's another thing. And we're only 1 minute 33 in. There's a way to go. What's the other guy called again? Jason Wyman or something?
140 plus hour program begins.
Where
today.
Is he?
Guys, me and Jason Wyman are
There we go. Jason Wyman. Let's do a quick Google on Jason Wyman, shall we? Jason Wyman. I've Googled him before because obviously I wouldn't be streaming about this if I didn't know somewhat what I was talking about. So Jason Wyman is a developer instructor at Unity3D.college, right? Great stuff. So what has Jason Wyman done over the past years? So Jason Wyman has been a programmer for Intel, for Studio Games Online, Studio Games Normal, Sony Entertainment, Mobius, and then just senior software engineer. Okay. And then for Unity 3D, right? Now, this is pretty impressive, right? This is a lot of years of experience, and, you know, there's nothing really major here, right? It's just, you know, it's okay, right? We don't know any of the titles he's worked on or anything like that, so, you know, it's a bit of a guess, but okay, you know, I'm happy to believe that Jason would know the bare minimum of what's required to be able to teach programming, right? Which is a great start. However, when it comes to $1,000 per seat, I highly doubt that's worth it. I highly, highly, highly doubt that, because that is one programmer teaching you one way of programming who's been doing it for 20 years or so, right? So you just have to hope that in those 20 years, he hasn't learned himself any bad habits, has always stayed up to date with the latest technologies, the latest principles and rules and things like that. And you're paying $1,000 for hoping that that is the case, right? And like Jago said in chat earlier, um, it's actually 31 hours, right? It's not the full 140 hours that you get. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, you could see the course curriculum. Oh, we could add this stuff up. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is amazing. I can. Oh, there's a lot to add up here, but um, this. Oh, I wish I could export this into a sheet. Hang on. We need to do some calculations here. We need to grab the good old calculator. All right. So we should. Hey, Prestige, how you doing, buddy? We're just talking about the worst advice you could get on YouTube in game dev, which is from Thomas Brush, in my opinion. So feel free to share all of the bad advice that you've received over the years, and if there's anything specifically that you like to discuss. Okay, so let's actually not spend too much time on actually adding all this up. But yeah, from what I can see, let's go through some of this stuff. Right? Let's see. Introduction shit, cool. Pre-marketing. Start selling your game now, sure. Install Photoshop. Branding fundamentals. Create your website. Fishing for wish lists. I think I did the adding up and it's not over 100 hours. Yeah, fair. I'm decent. My RSR has gotten so much worse, lol, but it is what it is. I'm good advice. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. I've heard from friends that RSI is a real bitch to deal with. Have doctors at all identified a potential, well, fix, right? Like a curing plan, or anything like that? Also, the game design Bible. Stop. The core game loop, 6 minutes. 6 minutes is what is spent on explaining core game loop. I have had lecturers who spend 10 hours on talking about core game loop, and they're still not finished because there's so much to talk about. Right? This is something that can't be spent. Like, you can't spend 6 minutes on this and then that's it, right? That's it. Also, why is there then 46 minutes on branding fundamentals? What? Why? Like, again, I'm sure that branding fundamentals should be explained for that long, for that like amount of time, but that ratio is ridiculous, right? Intro into marketing. Why should you care about email lists? You shouldn't, but okay. Creating a MailChimp account, creating the form, 10 minutes, cool. Customer journeys, 10 minutes. That might be interesting, maybe, who knows? Combining email and wish lists. Publishers, why? Why is any starting out game dev worried about publishers? Stop. Your games are going to be shit for the next 5 years. It's okay, right? You're learning. That's fine. You don't need publishers. Stop wasting time. Just learn stuff. And then in 5 years from now, go find your publishers. That's when this becomes important. And again, you won't need this course to do it, right? You won't need to spend $1,000 to do it. You can figure this shit out on your own. You really can. You really don't need to spend $1,000 on this shit. So don't do that. Also, coming soon? What? What do you mean? I'm paying for this now. This should be ready. Anyway, I have hypermobility, so they're just guessing. I also have hypermobility. Welcome to the club. This course is $1,000. Yes, it's $1,000. Crowdfunding. Why? Look, don't get me wrong. Crowdfunding is a great way to get your game funded. It really is. But again, you don't need $1,000 to learn how to do this. Here. I'll show you. How do I kickstart my? How do I make a successful Kickstarter for my game? There you go. Found something on Buffer, found something on Game Analytics, found something on thegamemarketer.com. Even Kickstarter has their own resources on this. How to launch your product on Kickstarter. There's the GameMarketingGenie.com, ArtOfTheKickstart.com. There is so many resources. There's a fucking Quora article about this. And if it's on Quora, that means it's everywhere, right? Like that's just a fact of the internet by now, right? If it's on Quora, you'll find it everywhere, right? That's just true. You don't need to spend $1,000 for this shit. But anyway, yeah. So $1,000 for a course of two guys for allegedly 140 hours worth of content that is supposedly enjoyed by 10,000 students worldwide. Oh wait, no, actually, hang on. Sorry, Thomas. Did you say 10,000? I thought it was where is it? I thought it was 3,000. What? That's a bit weird. And if it's 3,000, where's all the reviews? I only see 4. So how many is it? And also, why do all these people have like super photo? Well, I guess this one not, but it's like super like well taken pictures. That's also a question. If the course is so great, why is it so hidden and no reviews and feedback available? Hundreds of pupils every year. Exactly. And this is something I was going to get into later, but I'll do it now. Let's do a very quick math, right? A very quick math. If this course costs $1,000 per seat, and there's 150 seats available this time around, I guess. And Thomas is saying that he is a 6-figure indie game dev, right? So if we do some basic multiplication, 150 times $1,000. Whoa. That's 6 figures, right? Oh shit, you guys can't see that. There we go, for dramatic effect. That's 6 figures right there. Now, of course, you know, taxes are going to go off and, you know, some, well, basically non-existent costs of recording this content in the first place. They're going to split it through half. They're going to split it through half because, you know, there's 2 guys. But if he does this trick 4 times a year, right, every 3 months, plus YouTube ad revenue, plus whatever his games are still selling. Yeah, I mean, even without his games selling, because I'm relatively confident they're not anymore. This man is a 6-figure game dev, indie game dev guy, right? Black Friday offer, 40 C's left. The next day, 70 C's left. Those were from Thomas's video descriptions. Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that as well in a second when we go through more videos. I don't know anything about this guy, but I'm not a big fan of paywalling knowledge like this. Exactly. And there are some institutions who do paywall content, which is okay, right? For example, the Project Management Institute is constantly kept up to date by hundreds upon hundreds of really qualified project managers, right, and agile managers, and whatever else you want, or producers, and whatever else you want to kind of name those people. So that's okay, because you know you can verify in multiple different locations that their content is good. But with this, you can't. And they say Unity backed. I mean, to be honest, Unity is its own engine and it's great at its own things, but that is separate from the business of Unity. And when it comes to the business of Unity, my personal opinion, not my professional opinion, my personal opinion, right? This is my opinion and my opinion alone, and this does not reflect the opinion of my employers or my colleagues or anything like that. This is just my opinion. The business tactics of Unity are not something I would necessarily be proud about. That is just how I see it. So saying Unity backed is, for me, you know, someone who knows the industry relatively well, not really a great thing. But again, starting out, game devs won't know this. They won't see this, right? They won't understand that there's questionable things going on about Unity's pricing module and stuff like that. So they're basically being lied to. But anyway, we'll talk about ethics and morale later on. And morality later on. Onto the video.
All right, so the original game was called Father. And the
Yeah.
plot was basically a father looking for his estranged daughter in this cult campus called Edenfell. He finds out later that it's the archaic remains of the Garden of Eden. Your job is to scale this massive castle-like structure, which is the Tree of Life, to find your daughter at the top. Even now, I
The gun flashes, man.
think this is a pretty cool plot, but the problem is it's not enough. There's just not much to do with this. Of course, you probably disagree.
Hold
I
on,
understand,
we'll
I
get
get
there.
it. But
We'll
every
get
time
there.
me and my team have brainstormed with this idea in a meeting on Discord, we've just found it incredibly difficult to come up with ideas.
Wait, another ad. Jesus. Alright, come on. Let me skip this ad.
Oh, dude,
Okay, so... You know what the takeaway here is, right? Thomas Brush starts his game ideas with a narrative, with a plot, right? Because it's about father trying to find his missing daughter on this campus, this cult campus called Edenfell, and it happens to be the remains of the Garden of Eden or something. But it's not enough, and he's gonna show us why.
I got a great idea. Sure. What if we put our the player's gun? Okay. Okay. Go with me. We came up with some fruit themed.
I forgot this was in here. This is incredibly funny, and somehow, in my opinion, allegedly, Thomas Brush is foreshadowing here for the conclusion of this stream, which is incredible to me, and I completely forgot this was in this video.
Now, we came up with some fruit-themed spiders, maybe some flytrap enemies, fruity power-ups. The problem is the game is a horror game, and these things just look clever.
Makes a great
they were
video.
Never really
You're
scary,
right.
but
You're
clever
right.
isn't enough in a horror game. I've kind of made a rule. If a game's theme, setting, and story don't inspire a ton of ideas from your team during brainstorming meetings, it's likely the idea is not fruitful. No pun intended.
No pun intended. What was the pun? That you have fruit enemies? Oh, fuck me. And he does this more. He does this more. But, okay, let's re-listen to that for a second.
The game is a horror game, and these things just look clever. They were never really scary, but clever isn't enough in a horror game. I've kind of made a rule. If a game's theme, setting, and story don't inspire a
Theme, setting, and story. Theme, setting, and story. If they don't inspire enough ideas during brainstorming, then your game is not good enough. Theme, setting, and story. These three things, as a starting out game developer, should be the very last things on your mind. They're like a coat of varnish on your game. And that's all they should be for the first 20 games, right? Because your theme, setting, and story don't matter. Players don't care. And I can already hear Thomas Brush or any one of his loyal defendants, I can already hear them say, oh yeah, but what about Portal and Shovel Knight and Stardew and name any other game that has a somewhat good narrative. You know why people care about those stories? Right? And this is the kicker. Because the gameplay is fun. That's it. That's it. People can allow themselves to engage with the story in a game. For example, take Portal, right? When you take a look at Portal, the gameplay itself is engaging enough that the players can take time to focus on what is happening in this game, right? Honestly, I think that really depends on what type of game you're in. True. There is absolutely an argument to be made where you can apply top-down design principles, where you start with thematics and aesthetics, and you work your way down to the mechanics. That's totally fine. That is possible. It is a valid way of designing. However, that is not the advice you want to give to starting out game developers. Because they're going to spend their time writing a 50-page narrative document or a 400-page game design document that is mostly filled with story. Because that's what you're giving them. You're saying, hey, look, if your theme, setting, and story isn't good enough, then your game is not good enough. And that's just not true. Games are good when they are fun. And very, very, very rarely are games fun just because of their story, or just because of their setting, or just because of their theme, or just because all of those three things combined. That is just very rarely the case. You know how they always say, like, behind a successful man there's always like a successful woman? That's like a super 1950s thing to say. The same goes for stories in games. Behind a really successful story is a fun game. Like, I truly believe that. Like, to take a look at Undertale, take a look at Five Nights at Freddy's, take a look at Uncharted, The Last of Us, just Amnesia. I can keep going. Like, all of these games have really great stories, right? And they're spread among all kinds of genres too, and subgenres. Slay the Spire even has somewhat of a story. Um, all of those games with those great stories can really shine because the game itself is fun, right? You could write the best story in the world, but if your game isn't fun, then you know what's going to happen. People are going to play for 5 minutes and then they'll quit, if even 5 minutes, right? Likely 2 minutes, and then they'll quit, and then they'll refund if they've even bought it in the first place, and then that's it. You're never seeing that person again for your game. Did Thomas start Pinstripe with a story? How does it show? Let's take a look at Pinstripe later on. Let's do that. I don't have it installed, but or I don't have it even bought, but I'll sacrifice my money to go through that to show you guys what I mean. Pinstripe. That's expensive. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Right. We will do that later. So yeah. So it is obviously subtle. Well, it's not really that subtle, but it's something that I did notice.
Ideas from your team during brainstorming meetings, it's likely the idea is not fruitful. No pun intended. If a theme, a plot, a setting are effective, they will immediately sprout more ideas. Your problem should not be coming up with new ideas. Your problem should be weeding them out. Again, no pun intended. Another way of putting it is...
But he didn't talk about weeding anything out, so what's the pun?
Should be your problem, not feature vacancy.
Feature vacancy. Cool. Nice term. Feature creep should be your problem, not feature vacancy. Feature creep is a problem. And it shouldn't be a problem. Like, it definitely should not be your problem. Because again, when you are starting out as a game developer, and with starting out, I truly mean less than 3 years of experience making games, right? Yeah, at least. Your goal should be to make simple things, right? And in that sense, feature creeping is not something that comes because you have a great story and a great theme and a great setting. It's something that you do because you're inexperienced and you just keep adding features anyway, right? Because you're like, oh, and I want to add boss fights, and I want to add this, and I want to add that, and, you know, and a world map, and saving and loading, and all this kind of shit. You do that just because you get excited about whatever idea you're working on, not because your theme, story, and setting are great. And feature vacancy, I don't know what he really means by that. A simple finished game will teach you so much more than 100 big unfinished prototypes for grand ideas. Exactly. You say it very well, Prestige. I'm not sure what he exactly means by feature vacancy, as in that you can't come up with anything. But that brings us to, because earlier on in the video, Thomas mentions, like, he's doing that skit about the, you know, that he's coming up with, that he can't come up with any ideas, and he's like, oh, like, you know, hear me out, the player's gone, ride with me here, whatever the fuck he says. But everything he's doing there, he's talking about thematics. He's not talking about mechanics, right? Which is where feature creep really takes place a lot of the time. He's talking about how thematic things happen to a combat mechanic, right? And I suppose that is where his link between feature vacancy and theme, setting, and story kind of come from. But it makes no sense. It does not hold together at all, and it's not how it works.
Will get you there. So secretly, I spent evenings after I put my kids to bed simply just thinking through new themes, and I decided on the following: Squid Game meets BioShock.
Okay, take note of this, please. Everyone, take note of this, because holy shit, Squid Game meets BioShock. Please enjoy this pitch with me.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, Lucky.
Did you make it to the hotel?
Yeah, I made it here just fine.
Great to see you here. I'll be waiting for you in the honeymoon suite.
You wake up, locked in this stormy hotel. Your bride is missing. A series of deadly games ensue as you climb the happy hotel. At the top, you find your bride, or maybe you don't, along with a massive cash prize. Now, what is this place? Why are we here? Who are we? Who is this Mr. Tinker that talks to us through a loudspeaker?
I want to see you pissing in your pants and pooping all down your leg.
What are these monsters dressed in childish costumes?
Teletubbies!
Questions are boundless, and a ton of questions are the ticket to a great game. Or perhaps they're the golden...
Okay. Now, besides the fact that Mr. Tinker wants me to pee and poo in my pants, right? Besides that horribly hilarious fact, Squid Game meets BioShock. And then you end up in a hotel and you have to climb to the top to receive a cash prize. Which we'll get into later because, oh boy, he's got some ideas. So where's the Squid Game and where's the BioShock? If with Squid Game he means that there's a cash prize at the end, then I guess that's Squid Game. But I guess that's also American Warrior and every other show that has a cash prize at the end for surviving an X amount of time. Takeshi's Castle had the same thing. What is of all the amazing things, right, that Squid Game has done, both thematically and mechanically, if you want to view it from a game's perspective, the cash prize at the end is just not it. And then as for BioShock, I'm again assuming that Thomas really is aiming here at the thematics of BioShock and kind of like that really creepy, surreal feeling that you know those games tend to have. So you have Teletubbies with dynamite strapped to their chest, and you have a bloody bride scouring the floors. What? 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 I assume the Teletubbies is a Squid Game influence. I mean, even if that's the case, what? It's, yeah, so, you know, it is definitely goofy. And, yeah, if that's the intention, that's okay. But I don't think Thomas knows what the intention is at all with this game. We'll keep watching.
There's another idea. Play with the Willy Wonka themes. Let me write that down.
Play with the Willy Wonka themes? What Willy Wonka themes? We'll continue.
Onward! See what I mean here? A bountiful idea leads to a bounty of questions. Questions are the chocolate to your candy bar, per se. What I mean is, without questions, a game, especially a horror game, will struggle to find answers. And looking for answers feels so...
What, and most of all, why? Yes, why is a great question to ask. What was that quote on screen just now? What was it again? Without questions, a game will struggle to find answers. What? I'm relatively sure this is a little bit semantics, but without questions, a gamer will struggle to find answers, right? I suppose it's that rather than a game. And again, we're very much looking at a story perspective here, right? Where a story without questions and without mysteries, if you will not be very engaging, right? Because the viewer is never really wondering why certain things are happening that are happening. Like if you have, I don't know, take any movie at all. If you take the new Super Mario movie, and you take a look at that, but you already knew the answers to every question in the first 5 minutes, you wouldn't stay to watch the rest of the movie because you know everything already. And that makes sense. That is perfectly fine advice for story writing, not for games, right? For story writing in games, maybe, sure. But again, story is just one part, and in my personal opinion, a very small part of what makes games great. Portal is great because it's an incredible puzzle game. Stardew Valley is great because it's somehow, and I guess that's very much a niche example here, but it somehow manages to take a whole lot of actually really mundane tasks and wrap it all together into a super enjoyable experience and varnish it with a nice coating of story, right? If you take Uncharted, Uncharted is an incredible, for its time, incredible 3D action adventure game. It really is. And it has a super nice story. Well, a bit of cheesy story, but a super nice story layered nicely on top of it, right? But all of these games are inherently fun. The story won't make your game more fun. Good mechanics will, and a good core loop will. Anyway, onwards.
Will struggle to find answers. And looking for answers feels so good in just about every creepy game. Half-Life, Hollow Knight, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Breath of the Wild. That's not creepy, but it still works. Looking for answers is perhaps the core to a great game. And you can't...
No, it's the core to a great story, right? It's the core to a great story. Yeah, it's a core to a great story.
That tasty core without the apple itself, and that is a bunch of questions. Your life is a bunch of questions. That's what makes it interesting. Now, this new theme led to major questions about the game's mechanics. Does the current set of mechanics serve this new theme, which is a crazy haunted hotel game show? Actually, kinda. What we had was a first-person shooter where you shoot boring enemies and collect boring keys to unlock boring doors, and that can actually work for an indie game, but not so fast. If we're gonna scale a massive tower, we need a character controller that's ridiculously fun to control. Simply traversing from floor to floor in this backrooms-inspired tower. And by the way, if you haven't looked into the concept of backrooms, you're definitely missing out. This should require the player movement to be insanely fun. So, me and my team spent 2 weeks speeding up player movement, adding a sprint mechanic, a double jump, a crouch, a slide, a mid-air dash, a grapple hook, and the goal here was to have
I'll get into
additional movement options that are earned as you progress the tower. Now, we also rebuilt the enemies from the ground up, instead of simply...
Okay, so, somewhere just now, he was talking about how the game originally was a first-person shooter where you shoot boring guns at boring enemies to collect boring keys. Now, if you keep looking and you keep paying attention, you'll see that this game is still that, right? We'll get into the enemies now.
Relying on spiders to be annoying, and zombies to be annoying, and drones to be annoying. We started categorizing our enemies based on difficulty. Now we have an annoying, farmable enemy type, the zombie, but we also have a terrifying and dangerously fast enemy, spiders. We have enemies that can hit you from afar, that's shotgun-wielding clowns, of course, and also an ultra-dangerous enemy that's slow but sneaky, and that's basically Teletubbies with dynamite strapped to their chest.
Can't take this seriously. Can't take that shit seriously. So, if you couldn't tell, you're still playing devil's advocate, if that's the correct use to this. Yes, it is. A game like Before Your Eyes is kind of just a story. They use a gimmick to progress said story and get players into it, but without a story it wouldn't work. Though if you're not making a game purely a story game, then the argument of story, theme, etc., being everything doesn't work. Yeah, exactly. There are definitely games that are 90% story, 10% game, which is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And if, like you said, if that's the goal, that's okay. That is not a problem, right? It's not like story bad, everything else good. That's not how it works. It's just that for 90% of the cases, and I'd even pull it up to 95%, to be honest, for 95% of the cases, the story definitely won't work without fun mechanics, without a fun core gameplay loop. They just won't, right? It won't work. Because people won't stick around to find out the rest of your incredible story if the game they're playing is frustrating and bad, right? But yeah, a game like Before Your Eyes, I'm going to add this to my list because I have not played that game. Before Your Eyes. Oh, I have seen this, actually. I've seen it, I haven't played it, but cool. Add to wish list. Yeah, games like Before Your Eyes absolutely can nail it. Totally they can. Of course they can. Makes complete sense. But it's just not the case for 95% of games, let alone starting out game developers, right? It's just not where you want to focus, right? But as you can tell here, we're still shooting boring enemies that are annoying, right? Annoying spiders, annoying zombies, annoying shotgun clowns, annoying dynamite, Teletubbies. And then an additional thing that I didn't comment on earlier is the movement set. They added all these things, a grapple hook, a mid-air dash, and a sprint, and all this kind of other stuff. Yet their theming, which is so important to Thomas, is a hotel. Now, I don't know if Thomas has ever been in a hotel. I hope he has. Or I hope he's Googled pictures of a hotel. But hotels aren't large open spaces in which fast traversal is really allowed. At all. Maybe in a lobby, right? Some lobbies of some like really high class hotels are really cool and like have like large ceilings and like high ceilings and stuff like that. But generally speaking, that doesn't fit. That doesn't match, right? And yes, games don't have to be realistic. I 100% agree. Games trying to be realistic is 9 out of 10 times a bad idea. But you can't justify either the fast traversal and the hotel theme at the same time, in my opinion. Right? That's just my opinion. But anyway, we continue with Dynamite Zombies. Dynamite Teletubbies.
There's also the infamous Enderman. In this case, his name, or her name, is Charlotte.
Off she goes. Look at her go.
Inspired by Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte. This is a movie that inspired me since I watched it with my mom when I was 7. And by the way, the reason I watched this movie with her at such a young age is because, according to her recent text to me, because I wanted to. Thanks, Mom. You've inspired my next horror game. Charlotte crawls around the hotel with the help of Mixamo animations, and if she spots you, you're screwed. I'd argue that Charlotte is the linchpin of this entire new concept. With her, you're pretty much bound to sneaking around the hotel. You can't just...
Okay. Actually, that is much more important than the fast traversal hotel thing. How does one use fast traversal, grapple hooks, mid-air dashes, sprints, whatever, when you're supposed to be sneaking around? Why are you invalidating 90% of your movement set, which is supposed to be the fun part, right? Why are you invalidating 90% of the fun of your movement set for likely at least 50% of the game? Why? That makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Until she sees you, of course. Then you can sprint, dash.
Right. So when she sees you, you know, you got to use your extensive movement set, which is great. That's lovely. But why focus on sneaking around at all when your movement set is not geared towards that at all? Right? Why would you do that? That makes no sense.
As fast as you can to a golden church bell. Then and only then will she stop chasing you. See how quickly ideas have just sprung up from this simple theme of a haunted hotel game show. Now guys, your theme can make or break your game's mechanics. And I didn't realize this. I thought mechanics came first. But in my case, a great...
Why the laugh track? Mechanics do come first. They just do. Again, I'll say it again. Top-down design, which is it means you start with your aesthetics and your thematics first, right? And you work your way down to your mechanics. It is a valid way to go in 5% of the cases. But it is not good advice towards starting out game devs who are now going to go write 50-page stories and 400-page game design documents because some dude on the internet told them that that's the way to go. A little design nitpick, but that camera shifting when you move sideways is bound to give some people motion sickness, right? Yes, I agree. I didn't want to call out too much on the semantics, but yes, 100%. That is a guarantee. The laugh track there for mechanics come first is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and it is just Thomas pushing his own agenda to get more people to sign up for a shitty course. It just is, and you'll see it at the end of the video.
For your game can help the mechanics. Okay, so now we have this super interesting, super marketable theme. We have some cool weapons.
And that's the key. I'll replay it. That's the key.
Can help the mechanics. Okay, so now we have this super interesting, super marketable theme.
Super interesting, super marketable theme. That's the key, right? That is the reason why Thomas Brush is able to claim that he's a so-called expert. He's not, in my opinion, in my opinion, he is not an indie game developer. He is a marketer, and he's a good one. He's a really good marketer, just with really shitty ethics and morals, but beyond that's besides the point for now. If you make and I will run this test at some point, and I will show you guys those results. When you make something that looks incredible, actually, I don't need to. It's already been done for me. Take a look at a little game called No Man's Sky. When that game was marketed, holy shit, were people excited. A more recent example, because No Man's Sky is a little older now. God, time flies. Cyberpunk 2077 with our boy Keanu Reeves. That game was super marketable. 110% marketable. And you know what happened to that super marketability? It caught on fire and it became a shit show. And it's happened to No Man's Sky. And No Man's Sky is doing really well now, but it definitely wasn't on release. And it's happened to many more games like it. If something looks good, or well, according to Thomas, this would be an interesting thing to market, but I have to disagree, but that's a moot point. If something looks good or is interesting, which is very subjective, then it's a great idea. And it is something you should market, it's something you should make, it's something you should sell. That is just not true. It just isn't. It's sure, it'll market really well. Yeah, you'll get a ton of people wishlisting your game, and you might even, if you get really lucky, you might even get a ton of sales, right? But if it then turns out that your game is shit, right? You know what people are going to do the next time they see your name somewhere? They're going to avoid you like the plague. And that's what's going to happen with this game as well. I can tell you now already. I can tell you. That's going to happen with this game as well.
We have some cool weapons, cool enemies, and cool mechanics. But where's that hook? Like, what's the thing that makes this game viral? What's that one?
Okay, we're gonna skip past the viral bit because again, he's being a marketer, not a game developer. He's looking for a hook, a mechanical hook specifically, and he'll get into that in a second. Which is great because there should be a mechanical hook to your game. There should be something about what the player is doing that is extra interesting or more interesting than something else they're playing, right? To pull their attention away from what they're playing now to playing your game. That's totally fine. But let's continue and let's see how he picks that up.
Line. What is this game about? I recently had a conversation with Jay Armstrong, creator of the Cult of the Lamb, which is arguably Devolver's greatest launch ever. And Jay was
by the way,
and this blood.
The interview you're seeing on screen now is not Thomas interviewing Jay. This is just random footage. Just in case you weren't aware, like me, the first time around, this is not them two talking. This is not that video. This is just a random interview.
One of the greatest kindnesses ever given to me from a game developer.
Just saying.
Look, your game needs a mechanical hook, something that makes it stand out. Just a twist on standard gameplay. And right now, you don't have that. I'll be honest,
And that is great advice, right? Your mechanical hook needs to be something that makes your game stand out. That is amazing advice, and it is something, to be honest, it is something that you learn super early on. If you go to, like a good game development school, you will learn that really early on. But Cult of the Lamb is beautiful, has a great hook. It is, and you're right. You're 100% right. Cult of the Lamb is not a fault here.
He was right. Let's discuss why my game and your game needs a hook. Your game needs a mechanical hook, aka a gameplay mechanical hook, so that, well, the player can get hooked by your game idea, like a fish. They bite the bait, buy the game, and you've made $15. Now, the beauty of a refund is that developers can't lie about their bait, perhaps like a fisherman can. You can't.
They can. They absolutely can. They've done 100,000 times before, and Thomas, you're guilty of this yourself, but okay.
Rubber worm on the hook. It's gotta be a nice, juicy worm. So what's my worm? Well, here's the idea. The hotel changes every Friday at midnight.
Okay. I can't believe I have to go towards such... Well, no, it's fine. It's fine. So when we talk about mechanics... No! When we talk about mechanics, we are talking about systems that are specifically defined by players... where's my fucking... There it is. Come here. Where players push buttons, right? Push buttons on a controller or on a keyboard or whatever. And because they put something in, something on the screen shows them something coming out. That is a mechanic, right? There is an input of the player. There is a certain agency the player has there. And based on what they do on that controller or on that keyboard or whatever, something comes out. That is a mechanic. That is a loop, right? This is not a mechanic. Um, the hotel changes every Friday night at midnight. A, why? B, what? And C, why? Let's keep listening.
Even better, at the top of the hotel is a prize. Sometimes it's just status, like being able to rename the hotel to your username. Sometimes it's your avatar's face plastered across the hotel's paintings. Sometimes it's, wait for it, you're gonna love this, NFTs. You're not gonna like that. But
Another great thumbnail for a video I'll never make. I can't believe I paused it so perfectly. NFTs, man. Any YouTube indie game dev that recommends you NFTs, stay the hell away from them. They are by far the worst source of information. NFTs are scams. I will not argue on that either. They are factually scams, and 10 out of 10 times, they're pyramid schemes. Yay. So, yeah, anyone recommending you NFTs, just break off all contact and just, move on with your life. It's not worth it. But they're non-fungible. There's a public ledger. I promise. Please buy mine so I can get my money back. Again, the prize at the top is not something... I'll show you links for big money. The prize at the top and the hotel changing is not something I'm doing. It's not a mechanic. This is not something I'm just pulling out of my ass either, right? This is shit that's been researched over and over and over again. And I'll show you as well. This is so fucking annoying that people keep pulling this shit out of their ass. Here you go. Where we talk about a gameplay loop. Which is the dynamic, really. We're talking about a set of systems that are taking input at different stages to create a fun experience. But each of these systems need input on their own, right? This thermometer is inputting the room temperature, right? This game board is inputting an action of the player, right? Based on which they move, right? A certain result comes out, based on which they take an action by either paying up, getting a card, cashing in, whatever, based on which certain status changes, based on which they can roll again, and it keeps fucking going forever, right? This is what mechanics and, in an extension, dynamics are for, right? So, and yeah, for anyone that's actually watching right now, let me send you a link of this, because this is a super good read. It's 7 pages or something. Or 5 pages even. 100% recommend. It's a really good intro. So the hotel changing and the price at the top changing for NFTs is just not it. It does not even meet the basic requirement of a mechanic. So it's not a mechanical hook. It's not a twist on something I'm doing in a different game. It's just randomly generated shit that maybe some players will care about, right? Maybe they'll like that idea, right? That's fine. But it is far from a mechanical hook, and it's horrible advice, because it's just wrong. It's plain wrong, right?
I like it. Or sometimes it's actual money, right?
But I
the
like
rewards will be weak.
Or sometimes it's actual money. Unless you're an Epic or a Blizzard or Riot Games or, name any one of the big ones, and you are capable of organizing large-scale tournaments in which real money is like a prize, don't promise this shit to players. Any game that's promising that you can make real money if you're just good enough is a scam. It is. I love randomly generated stuff as a game dev, although random things seem to annoy players who are more experienced in games. So, randomly generated stuff is fine, right? It's actually really, really cool, right? However, and this is the mistake that a lot of people make, randomly generated does not equal fun. RNG is usually much more frustrating than fun, right? It's not wrong. It can be applied, but in this context, it's not a mechanic. And in just a general context, just because something is RNG, does not mean it's fun, right? RNG should have never been used, and in my opinion, never is a certain um, uh, um, selling point for your game. Like, it's cool if technically you pulled it off, right? That's super awesome. But in 9 out of 10 cases, in 99 out of 100 cases, it should not be used as a selling point, right? There are exceptions, like, for example, Minecraft. They, live and breathe with that shit, and that's great because they actually managed to make it a significant part of their core gameplay loop, which is perfectly fine. But in this case, it is not it. It's not
and
it.
they'll be ever changing, but this much is certain: every week the hotel changes. Ultimately, the challenge is, can you get to the top of the tower this week the fastest? And just remember, the tower has changed. All right, so what do you think about this idea? Let me know in the comments. Regardless
It's
of what I
shit.
decide, if there's anything I want you to take away from this last point, I want you to understand the value of a good mechanical hook.
It's not.
Your story should have a hook, right? Your art style, it should have a hook. Your characters should have a hook. For example, the protagonist in this new game concept might be female, right? With beautiful red nails gripping old rusty steampunk
What?
guns. That's kind of a cool character hook, but it's not a mechanical hook. But the most crucial question is gameplay, right? What's the gameplay hook? What is the
So the gameplay hook of, for example, Rollerdrome is roller skating meets super bloody combat. That's 100% the dynamical hook, and the actual mechanical hook of this is doing stunts to reload your ammo, and then slowing down time during your stunts to shoot enemies, which is super awesome. It's a super cool, super creative gameplay hook, right? Mechanical hook. Did he just say that's a cool mechanical hook, but it's not a mechanical hook? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Wait, hang on. Let's do it again.
I decide, if there's anything I want you to take away from this last point, I want you to understand the value of a good mechanical hook. Your story should have a hook, right? Your art style, it should have a hook. Your characters should have a hook. For example, the protagonist in this new game concept might be female, right? With beautiful red nails gripping old rusty steampunk guns. That's kind of a cool character hook, but it's not a mechanical hook. But the most crucial question is gameplay, right? What's the gameplay hook? What is the mechanical hook? Ultimately, guys, this much is true. My games and yours will be ever changing as you create them.
Also, I hate the fact that he's just using content. Yeah, he says character. Yeah. I hate the fact that he's using video content of other people, but he doesn't reference it once. He's not giving them any credit whatsoever. Like, the only reason why we found out about this guy is because it's part of the video that he's using. Right? Super shitty practices, but okay.
I'm perhaps guilty of changing too much about my game, but change in a game's creation is necessary. Are you humble enough to admit that you don't really know what your game is yet as you create it? Are you willing to stand tall in the storm of confusion and wait for that lightning to strike, right? The inspiration. I'm willing to wait, and I ask my team daily to wait patiently with me. And I am really appreciative of you guys because you seem to be waiting patiently with me as well. Thank you so much for your support. So, here are the game name ideas. And please, please, please do not vote for Father. That name doesn't really work anymore. But here are the names. And by the way, I can't promise I'm going to choose the ones that you vote for, or that I'll choose any of them, but let's just go ahead and get the ball rolling. We've got...
That's another one of those things. We're going to vote. That's what he said at the start. We're going to vote on a new game name. And then here he says, here's 3 names. Vote for them, please. Don't vote for the one we had. But I'm not promising I'll pick the one that is most voted, or that I'm even using any one of them at all, regardless of their voting status. What? Why? Why vote? If you're not confident that the 3 suggestions that you're giving for the game name are names that you want to go with, then why?
Happy Castle, Finna Tower, and Tower of Tickles. Now let me know below in the comments what you love.
To be fair, Tower of Tickles is probably a cool name.
And upvote that are voting. And by the way, guys, if you want to support Father or whatever the game's going to be called, remember that me and my buddy Jason Wyman are launching a
And here's the second ad to, again, his shitty $1,000 course that is, in fact,
game dev course. And this, more importantly, does support you in the future. This is a massive course. There's just 150 seats available, and today only you can get a...
Okay, which is not 140 plus hours like he promised at the start. It does not have 10,000 students. Happy Castle wasn't it a hotel? It was. Thematics. It's so frustrating. This guy's so frustrating. Infinite Tower is such a generic name. It really is. It's like like Infinite Tower could be like a nice name for like a mobile game, right? Like sure, it's generic. It's mobile games are generally speaking generic, so that's fine. But God, yeah, it's not great. But again, and I am willing to bet you money on this. The reason why those names are so generic is because the game idea itself and like the intention of the whole game is super inconsistent, right? From the point where there's supposed to be this super traversal movement set, yet for like a majority of the game you're sneaking around because you don't want to get caught by Bloody Lady, whatever her name was. Bloody Mary? No, that's not it. It was something else. Bloody Lucy? Lucy Bloody? I don't know. Doesn't matter. So no wonder that no cool names come out of it. And to be entirely fair, naming a game is a little overrated. Just name whatever you want. It doesn't really matter all that much unless you have like a ton of experience under your belt. And there's some generic things to avoid, like for example Infinite Tower, but generally speaking, the name of the game doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't. Well, it doesn't. But one of the base rules is don't start going all Latin and Greek and all that kind of shit. Don't go like Tils of generic Yahweh, like don't do that shit. Don't do that. That's just bad practice. Make sure your game names are pronounceable. I guess that's the way to say it. Anyway,
the sale event will last.
Yep.
My buddy Jason, game design, and probably the biggest game dev course out there. At least I think so. Click below and check.
At least I think so. Cool. Thanks for your opinion.
Cheers.
All right. We all know that the game name is 50% of development estimate. Make sure your game name is Googleable. Yes. SEO tactics and all that kind of stuff. Yes, 100%. Now, this video was the first video that I saw of Thomas. Now, Jago, I'm just going to scroll back in our DMs. Because let me just see what the next video was that we looked at, where we were like, holy shit. Which was just crazy. Where was it? Oh yeah, that was that one. About the hotel changing every Friday. I said to you, that's not a mechanical hook. That is again more thematic bullshit. And then I posted a GIF of someone throwing their PC off a desk. That's great. Man, how times progress. Okay, 5 ways to make $100,000 by making games. Oh boy, so apparently, and I'm just reading my response back then, which is now 2 months ago. I said, I'm 1 minute and 47 seconds in, and Christ, what a guy, what an absolute guy. No, Jago, I'm not sharing any of the things you've said. Only the things I've said. Don't worry. Yeah, go Duracell. Woo! I'm not sponsored by Duracell. I wish I was. I love their batteries. Nice. Cool. Look at that guy go. Okay, right. Okay, here we go. 7 minutes. Surely this should go faster than the last one, especially if we put it at 1.25.
Guys, it's your friendly neighborhood game dev Thomas. In this video, we're going to talk about how to make money. How do I know how to do this? Well, what do you think? I've done it. And by the way, guys, stick around to the end of this video because all of these points will basically be useless without my final point. Also, click that like button, leave a subscription comment, do all of it, and make sure you're doing everything that you should. Subscribe. The first way is obviously what? Can you guess? Game sales. But that's not just the only way in this one little secret, okay? It's not just game sales. It's actually participating in events. These are huge, right? So if you do like a Steam daily deal, you're gonna get a pop of $10,000, $20,000 minimum just from this daily deal.
What is this intro? I know. Spoiler, I did not find the final point to make it worth it. Yeah, I know, we'll get to that. Also, events. Your game has to be good, regardless of how much you price it down, right? If a game is bad, and people say it's bad, then if you price it down by 90%, like he did for Silksong, was it Silksong? No, Pinstripe. you know, that still doesn't matter. Like that's not going to change it all of a sudden. It's not going to also give you the 10, 20K extra that he's talking about. That's not how that works.
Oh, I just made $10,000.
Wow,
The way you do that
great.
is you just reach out to people at Steam. My big secret is finding email addresses. I just can find people's email addresses. Hey, can I get the email address of the president of marketing? Really? Well, why don't you let them know that I have their son. So I had to ask for that, but it worked out, and bang, we made some money. The same is true with Humble Bundle.
So, oh yeah, he's going to kind of get into a point in a second. What? When you go into Steamworks, which is Steam's developer portal, they announce ahead of time, hey, Peter, any chance you could turn up the stream volume? Both you and the video pretty low on mine. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the suggestion. I can definitely do that. Let me do that by putting this up a bit. And then this one, let me check how I do that again. I think actually for me, I need to do it on this interface here. Okay, I think that'll be a bit better. Is that a bit better if I now play the video again a little bit further back?
The email address of the president of marketing.
Is that better, Peter?
Really? Well, why don't you let them know
Alright,
that
awesome.
I have their son.
I have their son. Okay, cool. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Steamworks. So when you go into Steamworks, Valve, they announce sales ahead of time, like for Next Fest, for Christmas, for autumn, for whatever other sales they do. I believe they have a spring one as well. Also came from your Reddit post a while ago. I finally seen you. Awesome. Yeah, I always I tend to post most of the time, and I'm glad that you happen to see it. That's great. That's really awesome. Let me know if you want me to talk about anything specific or any like bad advice you've received that you want to discuss. I'd love to discuss it. Steamworks announces all of these sales ahead of time, like by a few months, right? Most of the time, at least a few weeks, definitely. So you don't need to email people. And you don't need to email people to put a sale on your own game. You can just do that. You can do, I think, every 30 days. I believe there's a cooldown period of 30 days, last I checked, that you can run a sale. And you can't do it, like you can do like a launch sale, which I believe can be higher than 30%. And after launching, after your launch date, you can't do another sale for at least 30 days, and so on and so forth, basically. After every sale you do, you can't do another sale for 30 days, basically. So, but you have full control yourself. Like, you don't need to ask Steam, like, hey, can I do a 90% deal on my game? You don't need to ask them. They'll be like, sure, buddy, if you want to lose money, that's not our problem.
I had to ask for that, but it worked out, and bang, we made some money. The same is true with Humble Bundle, right? You could do a Humble Bundle, you can make like $30,000. So when you launch a game, don't freak out when you're not making a lot of money. It's totally fine. The money comes from the events. Sale.
Okay. We'll get into this in a second. Not even in the industry yet. Currently doing my honor degree in software development, but currently working as an IT manager. Cool. Just trying to get background info in the industry, etc. Okay, that's very cool. Yeah, ask away about anything specific you want to know. Software development is definitely a great start. There's definitely some things that are quite significantly different. However, it is very possible to get into game development. And I believe, Jagu, I believe you also came from software dev, right? And went into games, or are now going into games. I'm pretty certain I remember that, but I might get it wrong. So I'm sorry about that.
Sale events, launch events, bundles, that kind of thing. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you want to create your own 2D art.
Okay, so I had big questions when I saw this, because obviously the man we see down here is PewDiePie, right? Who has 110 million subscribers by now, which at the time of recording this video, recording the video that's playing on the background here, was less. It was like 60 or 70 million or something, which obviously is still a ton, but, I thought it was cool that Thomas had a video with PewDiePie. I thought it was awesome. And he does. It's just a little overplayed. PewDiePie basically ran a competition where people could make games in the theme of PewDiePie, basically, like in a theme of meme review, I think. And people made games, and Thomas was one of them, and he managed to get featured on PewDiePie's stream, which is great. That's really cool. So props to him. Awesome. But this is not realistic. And this is also where the whole argument surrounding reaching out to YouTubers and stuff like that it's just a waste of time. It's just a waste of time. 99% of the YouTubers won't respond, and the ones that do will either ask for money, or they're small enough that they won't really make a significant impact on your success, really. So.
Or you maybe want to create a 3D game really fast. There's 2 courses below, totally free. Like, there's no gimmicks, all right? There's no gimmicks. Do it. Click below. Jeez. The second way to make money is through publishers. Okay, so a lot of you probably think, oh, Thomas, I don't want to work with a publisher. Publisher's gonna screw me over. Yes, probably. They might. If you find a really great publisher, okay, they're gonna pay you from $30,000 to upwards of $1 million.
No. Okay, sorry. I was waiting for the next sentence. Sorry.
They're gonna take 40%, 50%, maybe if you're lucky, like 30, 20% of your game's revenue after launch, and they're gonna pay you money to do it. That's pretty cool, right? They're gonna do this before you even finish your game. That's awesome.
So, they are not giving you that money, right? Let's get that clear. This money is not wage, right? This money is only meant for you to cover any kind of costs you need to make by paying other people, right? Paying other people, giving yourself somewhat of a livable wage, right? But you're not making money off of a publisher, right? Not initially, especially not before release. Like afterwards, you'll make money of selling your game, right? Which you're now only getting like 30% from. Well, actually, after taxes and everything, probably like 15% from, because this big old publisher is taking a huge chunk, right? Because they will, because that's why they're publishers. That's why they give you that money. They're essentially, they give you a loan of money, and in 9 out of 10 publisher deals, it'll say that you won't get anything from game sales until they have fully recouped their money, right? So if they give you publisher money is an advance. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's an advance. Yeah, and welcome to the stream, NJY Exter. Did I say that right? Probably not. Yeah, it's an advance, right? It's an advance for you to finish the game that they see, potential into. But you're not making money that way, right? That would be probably illegal, and you'd be ripping off the publisher, right? And if the publisher first has to recoup the $30,000 or the $1 million that they gave you, then that is a super bad deal. And again, and I've said this before on Reddit, I've said it before in different places. Stop trying to make every game a commercial success. It doesn't have to be. It really doesn't need to be. Your first 20 games are going to suck, and that's okay. Just get them out the door, learn as much as you can about the different skills you want to learn stuff about, and pay other people to do the things you don't want to do, right? Which is later on down the line, right? When you have 5+ years of development experience, or art experience, or whatever, right? So stop trying to look for publishers. They're not worth it. They're not, because Thomas Brush's audience is starting out game devs. He admits that himself in multiple videos. So you don't need a publisher. You don't. And you're not going to find one either. With your bad 2D pixel platformer, which again is fine. Like, I'm not bashing on your ability or the fact that you made a bad 2D pixel platformer. I am very proud that you made that. I'm very proud that you managed to release it in the first place. Even if you didn't release it, I'm just proud that you're working and you're learning, right? But I have a huge frustration towards people, and that is an understatement, towards people who are recommending game devs to find publishers to make money when these game devs just aren't in that spot yet. And it's okay to not be in that spot. I'm going in circles here. It's okay to not be in that spot. So let's stop recommending that publishers are the way to make money or whatever. Because they're not. For 99% of the people watching this video, it's just not. And that's okay, right? Learn as much as you can and then after a while make something incredible, something really small, incredible, and pitch that to some publishers and see where it goes. But do that with a bunch of experience in your back pocket, because if you don't and you somehow get in, or even worse, you somehow get scammed, because there's scam publishers out there, there are, a surprise, then that might ruin everything for you, up to a financial point. Is it normally the best way to go? Develop your own games to gain experience rather than looking for an entry position? No. I definitely recommend an entry position first. Will you even get an entry position without experience in making your own games? Okay, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? And you guys are totally, you're both right. What I would recommend, and this is also the way that I got into games, it takes an initial mindset to just go out there and just look at stuff, right? When I was 14 or 15, which I still look today, which is incredible. You know, by the time I'm 50, I'll look 30. It's great. When I was 14 or 15, I downloaded Unity and I started making really bad stuff. All of it sucked. All of it was bad. Like, it was horrible. There weren't even games. But I just kept, like, smacking my face into Unity, hoping something new would come out, right? Learning something new. Ultimately, I got to a point where by the time I was 17, I was able to make very small things, right? Very, very, very small stuff. Like just basic, like a character controller jumping around, moving around, and like maybe like an enemy patrolling from left to right, like stuff like that, right? With that, I went to a university which was very well recommended for games. And I applied, and I showed what I did. But most importantly, and I will believe that to the day I die, and I'll never get the confirmation, but I'll believe that to the day I die, the only reason why I got in was not the fact that I could make those things. It was the fact that for 3 years straight, I wasn't giving up. I was taking the shitty things I had made, I was proudly showing it, and I was saying, I know it's bad, tell me how I can make it better. Tell me how I can learn. I still believe to this day that that's the only reason why the lecturers that interviewed me admitted me to the course. Because there was like 1,800 people applying, and there was like only like 200 people that were going to get in. So I was very lucky. And like Jago just said, you need to show what you did, why you did it, and then look for areas where you can improve, right? Because you are bad at making games. That's where you're going to the university course, right? If you were super good at making games, why are you going to this course? And what can they teach you? Probably nothing, right? If you're already super good. But the reality is that likely you're not super good and you are fooling yourself, but not them. So, you know, that's something. So I went through the 4-year course. I got an internship at Sumo Digital. I worked on Sackboy Big Adventure as a producer. And I kept on picking up blueprints on the side. I learned blueprints and design, game design throughout the course. And I kept applying it to all of the side projects and everything whilst I was working at the same time. And ultimately, now I am at a place where I am a producer at a different company. And I make games on these streams. And, you know, I learn more and more and more. It's all about that learning, right? So will you get an entry position without any experience? Yes, as long as you can show that you are trying to learn. That is 100% the most important thing. It's all about that attitude, right? The company I work for now, of course, we're looking for people with a base understanding of some base concepts and stuff like that. But more importantly, we're looking for people that know how to go beyond boundaries, right? That know how to constantly look for learning opportunities. That is by far the most important thing. Yeah, QA is a great way to get in, absolutely. But even then, because, well, for QA, there's actually quite a lot of theory and quite a lot of knowledge that you should know about. And especially then, if you then want to move into different positions and stuff like that, you are going to have to, like, triple showcase that ability of yourself, where you can, you know, basically keep learning new things and, you know, ultimately get better and better and better. That is the most important thing. It's not about being amazing. It's about showing that you want to be amazing and that you'll do everything it takes to get there. So yeah, I hope that was somewhat clear. I know it was a bit of a ramble, but I hope that's clear. Anyway,
Now,
the
it's
next
also
step.
true, these subscription service platforms do the same thing, right? Third way to make money, crowdfunding. Thomas, I don't want to do a crowd.
Okay, let's just listen to the
Why?
whole thing.
Why? Are you scared? That's probably why. If you're scared of crowdfunding, I totally understand. And then I did one and I made $100,000. And then I did a second one and I made $85,000. Now let me give you a little bit of insider knowledge. Kickstarter doesn't like first-person shooters anymore.
Get out! Help your customer!
But let me give you really quick the secret to crowdfunding. The secret is it takes you a long time to build a campaign, okay? You don't just launch a campaign. I've had friends, I've had people just launch campaigns and not even think about it. You need to do your research. You need to watch dozens of YouTube videos about how to create a great campaign video. You need to reach out to the Kickstarter team. Talk to them on the phone. I had to do this. Talk to actual people at Kickstarter because, guys, if you build rapport with them, what are they gonna do? What do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna promote your campaign, as long as it doesn't have guns. I've made 6 figures.
So, I checked this. Kickstarter does not and will not individually make recommendations because you built a rapport with them. Kickstarter is a user-curated platform, right? Kickstarter does have Kickstarter recommendations, they do, but that is a whole team behind them there that take care of that, not one person. They don't, like, if you keep calling them and keep, like, emailing them and stuff, that is not the reason for them to promote your campaign. It just isn't, right? So maybe it used to work differently when Thomas did it. I don't know. But I find it highly doubtful that this is the case. And also, again, a crowdfunder is not a way to make money. It is not. It is, again, an advance to you finishing a game, but this time it's much more risky because, well, not for you, for the people investing in your crowdfunding, in your Kickstarter, because when you have a successful Kickstarter, you take that money and then you decide to never come out with anything, and you keep that money. Technically speaking, there's nothing anyone can do. Kickstarter won't refund that money to users, and users are basically just out of luck, right? So when you have a successful Kickstarter, you have to finish it, right? If you don't want to get, like, basically blackballed from games, right, basically, by an audience. So again, crowdfunding is just not a way. It's not a way to make $100,000 by making games, right? This is not it, right? If you wanna make money by making games, start making good games. How about we start there? I do worry, though, since I'm on a decent wage, it'll be too much of a dip to swap across. 34 with 2 kids. First goal is the paper, then we will see to go from there. So first off, Peter York, I 100% admire and want to commend your tenacity in what you're trying to pursue here. It is incredible that at this stage in life you are at a point where you've decided, okay, I have this really stable thing, but actually I might want to get into something else, so I'm going to do everything I can to learn as much as possible so I can make that step. Now, I will tell you that wages in games are not amazing. They're just not. Like, that is the truth. No matter how much anyone tries to convince you otherwise, it's not amazing, and that's okay. Well, not okay, but it is the truth. So yeah, likely you will see a dip if you're coming from like an IT management position and you go into games, whether that be QA or production or programming or whatever. If anything, if I may recommend programming, I would definitely recommend that because programmers get paid the most in any country. So yeah, try that. See where you want to go from there. But I highly recommend the fact that you're doing this. I highly commend. I've run a Kickstarter for a board game. It's all about momentum. You need an audience before you do it. Arguably, it is revenue. It's pre-sales. So yes, you have to deliver. But in theory, it is money for a game. It's pre-sales. Yeah, but it's irresponsible to focus on 100K as income with no strings. Exactly. It is a subtlety that you and I understand, right? But it's not a subtlety that 90% of the viewers of this video will understand. So, yeah. Have you been following the development of Camelot Unchained? If so, do you think the development time roadmap is acceptable? Do you have a link for me that you can send me either through Twitch DMs or through Discord? Because links will get censored out in chat. If you can send me a link, then I'm happy to take a look at it. Because I'm a producer after all, so roadmaps are my bread and butter. So, you know.
And
anyway,
all the other ways
next
we talked
step.
about, but this one's pretty big. And that's just training material, resources, that kind of stuff. So while you're making your...
So there's another YouTuber called Jeffrey Royce. Hang on. I need to find him as well. What was that called again? Jeffrey Royce? No. What was the guy called again? I made a video about him a while ago. A long ass time ago. Like a really long time ago. Hold on. That's June. It was before then. Videos. It's in here. Oh yeah, Monster Tribe. That was it. This is my video. Did I link Monster Tribe? Oh yes, I did, because I actually care about... There we go, Rhys Geoffroy. There we go, we got there in the end. So Rhys Geoffroy made the same recommendation, where you could make money by making games, but every step he recommended was making assets, making training videos, stuff like that. And none of it was actually making money with making games, right? It was all doing everything but making games, right? And this is the same thing, right? If you're trying to make $100,000 by making games, stop making training videos, stop making assets for other people to use, start making your games. Again, it's a subtlety that we in this stream understand, or maybe not, and that's okay, but it's a subtlety that all of these people in this fucking comment section, they won't understand it. They don't get that subtlety. So they're getting just completely wrong, false information here.
Take a lot of the stuff that you're creating for your game and create resources out of it. Don't discredit it. Don't think that it's silly because it's training material and it doesn't matter. I'll be honest with you guys. The thing about training material is it's a premium product, right? So instead of selling a $15 game, you're selling a $150 asset pack, or you're selling a...
There you go. And that is my problem with Thomas Brush, right? Well, one of many problems with Thomas Brush. Now, I'll do a follow-up stream on this, you know, either tomorrow or later in the next week, because there's so much more to go through. He's literally saying, he's like, oh, instead of, why would you be a scrub, you know, selling a $15 game when you could sell a $150 asset pack or training, or in his case, a $1,000 training course. That for me says everything about Thomas Brush that I need to know.
A $300
right?
course. You see what I'm saying? If you want me to feel guilty about it, you can, well, you can leave.
I will not. There's too much to discuss. Another great thumbnail to use for a video I'll never make about Thomas Brush.
Now, the fifth and final way to make money, and this is sort of an overarching principle, and it's the most important thing you'll probably ever learn in your life. In the 1900s,
I doubt it.
the true, like, what everybody wanted was oil.
All I want is oil.
In the 21st century, you know what everybody wants? Traffic, aka a big audience. So what you need to be doing, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a digital entrepreneur, if you want to make games and you want to make money selling your games, frickin' stop relying on Steam. Stop relying on Nintendo. Stop relying on Sony and Microsoft and Google.
Okay, so I'm losing my voice, but I wanted to address this. Some of you right now are probably thinking, but Thomas, you have 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm not trying to be mean. How did I get there, right? How did I build this big audience? I started small. I didn't wake up one morning out of my mother. That sounds weird. I wasn't born straight out of my mom. That's weird. I wasn't born this way.
Start relying on who? You. So build, yeah, that sounds like a cool commercial. Start relying on you. For $355,000, you can rely on you by relying on me to sell you how to learn how to...
So, ironically, deliciously ironically, Thomas Brush is actively describing Thomas Brush. Instead of $355,000, you can rely on Thomas Brush for $1,000 so that you can start relying on yourself to rely more on Thomas Brush. It is fucking insane. It is insanity.
Rely on you. Build up that audience. How do you do it? Post on social media.
But Thomas, I want to make games.
I know. I agree. I feel the same way sometimes. There will come a day when you're 30 years old, or you're 40 years old, or you're 50, and you're still sucking at the teats of Steam, Google, Microsoft.
Yeah. So this won't change. Thomas, I'd hate to inform you, and I need to double check here before I say the next thing. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I hate to break the news to you, Thomas. But the platform you're on, YouTube, is owned by Google. Let's go back, right? Let's do this again.
I agree. I feel the same way sometimes. There will come a day when you're 30 years old, or you're 40 years old, or you're 50, and you're still sucking at the teats of Steam, Google, Microsoft.
Now, besides the fact that this is the funniest gift that ever has existed, but that's not thanks to Thomas, that is thanks to Bill Gates and the other guy. Fuck, I forgot his name. Doesn't matter. These Thomas tips do not seem like influencers, but more advice on becoming an influencer to make money. Exactly, and that's exactly what they are. It's advice on how to scam other people out of their money. That's really what it is. But again, YouTube, like Thomas, you are currently sucking at the teat, right? Yummy. Of Google. Right, like, and it is stupid to teach anyone that they can live without Google's teeth. I don't think that sentence has ever been said, but there is no, well, there is you can avoid Google, of course you can, but it is very unlikely that you should want to. Google is, besides its questionable ethics and questionable ways of doing business, which are all entirely valid arguments, it is by far the biggest source of data aggregation that exists, and it is by far one of the best tools for you to reach an audience. It just is, and it is not going to change anytime soon. Unless I wake up tomorrow and Google, I don't know, is bankrupt for some fucking reason. It won't be, ever. But, you know, if it is, then, screw me, I guess. But this is supposedly the mega secret. Basically, start a YouTube channel. Which, don't do that. It is not worth it. It's not fun. I only stream because it allows me to press a button on my stream deck that says go live, and then I go live, and then I'm here, and then I can just spurt shit onto a page, and not even onto a page, I can just spurt shit into the camera, and that's it. That's all I need to do. But I'm not going to make full-time YouTube videos because I just don't care enough about it. And the return is 0, may I add. The return is 0.0000001. You're not making megabucks. I've made $21 so far. I am rich. I am the richest motherfucker on the planet. The return is so limited. It's just not worth your time, right? Those hundreds of hours you're spending per year making YouTube videos to gain an audience, you could have spent on making great games or on learning how to make great games. Do that. And only once you've made great games, start learning how to do marketing, right? That's a whole separate topic, but it's not something to think about now. It just isn't. Anyway, on we go. Go Bill! Woo! And why is he showing this?
Stop sucking at them titties. Build your own audience. You'll thank me later because you'll be able to do so much with it.
In the event Thomas Brush is up.
Well, yeah, but this is fine. This is okay. Stupid joke. Because Thomas Brush won't be offered $10 million by Microsoft for various reasons that I won't get into.
offered $10 million from Microsoft, he's likely going to be a hypocrite and take the money.
Once you have 50,000 email subscribers, once you have 100,000 YouTube subscribers, guys, honestly, sky's the limit. I do want to say thank you for subscribing and supporting my studio and supporting, frankly, my dreams. I get to make games, I get to make resources.
So, again, I need to verify something because I don't want to say stupid shit. Because then if I do that, I'm Thomas Brush. So, bum 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 bum. Let's take a look. See. Bum 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 bum. Okie dokie. So, what are they called? Massive Monster Games, who many of you will know. Now to last tip from Thomas that will make all the advice worth. Yeah, we'll get into it in a second. Massive Monster Games. Many of you would have no idea who they are, and that's okay, because they didn't spend time building an audience or building a mailing list or any of that type of shite. They spent time making games. And do you want to know what they made? They made Cult of the Lamb and a few other things. That's what they spent their time on. And guess where they are? Right? And I'll pull this up. Let's go into Steam Spy, because you gotta love Steam Spy. Alright, let me log in real quick into an account that is 6 million years old. Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb. How many owners do we have? Come on. Show me Cult of the Lamb. And then, yep, there we go. Cult of the Lamb, is 1 to 2 million owners, right? If we go to Silksong, no, what is it? Pinstripe, 50,000 to 100,000 owners. You can see it right there. Whoopsie. You can see it right here. So I wonder. I've never heard of them, but I've never heard of Cult of the Lamb. I wonder if Thomas, if he would have spent those hundreds of hours he put into making YouTube videos, if he would have spent it on Pinstripe or Silksong or whatever the fuck he's working on now, Father, if he would have had a similar hit as to what Massive Monster did. I guess we'll never know, because Thomas was busy sucking the teeth of Google, whilst other companies and other developers were busy making games. I guess that would have been the perfect outro to a video that I never was going to make. Anyway, final tip. On the other hand, I had heard of Thomas Brush, but I had not heard of Pinstripe. Right, exactly.
By the way, guys, me and Jason Wyman, we have this huge program called the Ultimate Game Dev Course in the AAA. Or you want to start your own games.
So what was the mega secret? Oh, right, the mega secret. The mega secret was building a YouTube channel. 5 ways to make $100,000 by making games. I guess I'm buying the course. Yeah, you got that right, Jagu. 5 ways to make $100,000 by making games. Tip 5, the biggest mega secret of them all. Start a YouTube channel. Get a mailing list. And this is one of the reasons why my frustration with Thomas Brush specifically is so incredibly huge. Everything he's recommending and everything he's sharing as like pro advice is all based on, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, does not reflect the opinion of my employers, does not reflect, or sorry, does not have any good ethics or any good morals aligned with it, in my opinion. Should have invested in YouTube. 4K camera and a Blue Yeti mic is all you need. Come on, we can do better than Blue Yeti mics. Get a Shure SM7B. It's a €600 microphone. Go get that one. It's much better. It's much better. Makes a huge difference. I completely regret buying this microphone. It's a nice microphone, but I could have had the same quality for $200. So, you know, that's fun. So I need to make a very quick text because I'd love to show you guys one more video. I'd love to do that. Okay, let's see what comes as a response to that. Because this is not where shit from Thomas ends. Oh, no. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot more to go through. What's the next one? Oh yeah. I remember you sending me this one, Jaco. This was great. This was something. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just gonna mute that so you guys don't have to listen to this Dutch blabbing. Blah 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 blah. Have to do more blabbing. More blabbing. Come on. I already have a health insurance. I don't need another one. Okay. Oh, it's another ad. Mila, stop it. It is cool. Mila is cool. I like their appliances. It is. Oh, look at that. This is probably horribly expensive, but look at that. That is incredible. Why is it on top of a fish tank? I don't know, but it's incredible. Anyway. Oh, look at that. I wasn't even finished watching this video yet. Can I? There we go. Another ad.
Voelde je dat? Dat
What?
moet Duracell Optimum
Yay,
zijn. Onze
Duracell.
krachtigste alkaline-batterij ooit. Die geeft apparaten zoals jij extra kracht.
God.
Zo, die staat. Duracell Optimum, onze volgende generatie kracht.
So, just a quick message. Oh my god, another one. Jesus. No wonder you make 100K with YouTube. Jesus. Just a quick message to Duracell. If you want to sponsor my ranting, please do. I will use all of your batteries until the end of time because I think at the moment... See? Look at that. I'm already using your batteries. Can I keep that close? There we go. I'm already using Duracell. Was that the right way up? Yeah, there we go. Duracell. I'm already using your batteries. Duracell, please sponsor me. Because then I can make a video about how I made $10 billion from making games by getting a Duracell sponsorship. Anyway, next one. I'm done with all these ads. That's what they just asked. They asked me if I was done with all the racing. But I'm done with all the ads, so, you know. We're almost here. We're almost here. Almost. I never understood darting as a sport. I appreciate it's a sport, because of course it is. It's hand-eye coordination, absolutely. But I never got into it, let's put it that way. Anyway, besides the point. Anyway, here we go. How I recovered from quitting my game. $50,000 spent. I sure as shit hope not.
Of how I spent $50,000 making an indie game, how I lost faith,
Rough
killed
estimate.
it, buried it with my own hands, and how I recovered.
It was never on
Of
a
course,
Switch.
I
but
never
okay.
planned on burying this game. The game was called Father, and honestly, it was really cool. I loved it. It was a classic.
No, you didn't. No, you did not. Because literally, I think 2 weeks. When was this? 19th of August. When was the original video uploaded? The video we just watched earlier today. No, stop that. Oh, it's even... Wait, somehow this video is uploaded... Okay, so he decided to quit sooner? Wait, what? Okay. Anyway, the timelines don't make sense anymore. We live in a horrible parody of reality. Anyway.
FPS about an old man looking for his daughter in the ancient, haunted burial grounds of the Garden of Eden. It's got a bizarre story, it's got a ton of creepy religious themes, which I love in horror games, a cool character dynamic between a curmudgeon father and his rebellious teen daughter. It's got spooky enemies made out of fruit from the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil, demonic cultists that worship Eve. What's not to like? I was all in. I live streamed this game sometimes daily. You guys were all in, you hung out with me during my live streams. I even hired a 3D modeler, got some help with the sound, music, level design, code, and even found an intern. I don't care that you live in Oklahoma. get your in the car and bring me my coffee. Trust me, I'm actually a really nice boss. In fact, I'm so nice
Sure
that I
you are.
wanted to offer you my free 2D game kit. I used this exact game kit to make a game for PewDiePie. It's totally free and the link is below in the description. It's my treat to you. Oh, and while you're below the video, subscribe for more indie game development videos and devlogs, and leave a comment about a game that you quit and why you did it. So it was happening. The game was awesome. We worked on it for like 6 months straight. And ultimately, it was even showcased at GDC. But 3 things suddenly happened that crushed my spirit in less than a week. And after those 3 things, I buried Father. I'm quitting, Father. I'm getting out of here. Oh no. Around $50,000 of me and my team's paychecks gone. So what were those 3 reasons? Why did I quit Father? The first reason is kind of a personal one. Basically, there was some people in my life who made me feel kind of insecure. I mean, have you ever felt really strange, really awkward,
Yes,
really
totally.
off-putting to people? I feel this way a lot, especially in high school.
My name is Thomas Brush.
And I thought it would change. I'm 31 now and I still feel this way. I'm pretty good at coming across likable in videos. I've got a $2,000 camera, 3-point lighting, the Joe Rogan microphone. But when all of this is off, things can get awkward fast. Hi, Chris. It's Thomas. Yup. I was curious if you wanted to get dinner or go check out, go get some beer, bro. Do you believe in God? I mean, that's just my MO. And combine.
So that's all fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit awkward. I'm a little bit awkward, not whilst I'm streaming because I put on a different personality, right? That's what we all do when we are faced with a camera and a microphone, and that's fine. All people are broken somehow, exactly, and that is totally fine, and I can only accept that. However, with some of the advice given in this video, I am entirely sure that again, there's bad intentions, right? So we'll keep watching.
Combine this with a career of making strange horror games about, I don't know, the Garden of Eden. I found myself feeling isolated from normal people in my local community, and frankly, kind of unwanted. These feelings left me questioning everything, even my game. The second reason was a simple rejection from one publisher. I didn't even formally pitch Father. I just asked the publisher their thoughts, and I was given a thoughtful response and ultimately a rejection. Now here's a quick tip. Just because a publisher rejects your game doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's likely your game doesn't fit well in the publisher's portfolio, or
Sure.
maybe they don't even know how to sell a game like this. Now it's likely that there are other publishers out there who would love your game, and we'll talk about that towards the end of this video. I have some good news for you. These 2 reasons birthed a third reason, and that is the imposter syndrome.
You fraud.
According to Wikipedia, the imposter syndrome is you're a fraud and a piece of shit. Just quit your game, you dumbass. It doesn't matter if I'm on my
Yes, imposter syndrome is very real, and it is very much a big problem in games as a whole. And no matter if you're an indie game dev or a AAA game dev, this will haunt you for a large part of your starting out career, right? And the only thing I can say to that is that it is okay, right? As long as you are not being a fraud, that is okay. Allegedly being a fraud, that is okay. Right? Yes, imposter syndrome should not be mistaken for guilt. Exactly. I would say, because for me, I suffer from imposter syndrome quite a lot still, right? I have nearly 4 years worth of like professional AAA experience, and 4 years before that of like indie dev experience. I still suffer from imposter syndrome quite a lot, where I'm like, oh, actually, I think I did all these things really great. Actually, have I? I'm not sure. I'm probably not good enough. There's actually so much more I could have done. You know, all these thoughts start running through your head. Start running through my head specifically. And by the end of it, I feel entirely exhausted and I feel super insecure, right? Specifically, something that really helps me to kind of get rid of that feeling of insecurity, but this is really specific for me, so maybe it doesn't work for you. I hope it does, but maybe it doesn't. I have a calendar here to my left, right, which I can kind of show. Ugh. Calendar there, and at the top of the calendar, is that kind of, yeah. At the top of the calendar, I write all kinds of stuff from me, right? stuff where I encourage myself, where I say that I'm awesome, because that really helps me to get out of that sense of imposter syndrome and really like back on the up again. Because when you are suffering from imposter syndrome, it is only you having these thoughts, right? It's only you thinking like, oh, I should have done that better, and I haven't done that good enough, and I'm actually not very good at all, and I'm a shit producer, and and I'll never do anything good and stuff like that. It's just you having these thoughts, right? About you, right? Everyone else has those same thoughts about themselves, but not about you. The comparison you're picking out there, Jagu, where imposter syndrome should not be mistaken for guilt, those are two very different things. I don't think, personally speaking, that I could live without a sense of guilt if I was actively peddling a $1,000 course, posing it as somehow the best game dev course that has ever existed, to an audience who is too naive, not to fault of their own, but who is too naive to realize what is going on. I don't think I could live without a sense of guilt at that point. And I don't think Thomas can either. And I think that is what he's complaining about here, right? I don't think it's imposter syndrome. I think Thomas feels guilty over how he's handling his business. And that is an assumption, and I don't know, right? So take my personal opinion for whatever value you want to attach to it. But that's what I think is going on, right? So,
My third commercial release, I'm going to feel like a fake. I'm going to feel like a fraud. This is how it goes. The imposter syndrome is so normal. It's especially normal for indie game developers.
Oh, everyone deals with that. Every time you make a status shift as you move upwards, of course you have imposter syndrome, because when you first make a transition into a new role, you are an imposter.
My brain told me I was creating.
So what I'm wondering, because I haven't actually seen that clip before, and doesn't look like it's linked here either. I'm wondering if that clip is actually with Thomas and Jordan B. Peterson. Besides the fact that ethically and morally speaking, Jordan B. Peterson is a real human piece of crap and should probably hide away under, in a hole somewhere. Again, there's no credits, right? There is no credit of saying where that interview clip did come from, in case it didn't come from, whatever the fuck. 2017 Unity doc about my first game. Can we find this somewhere? Because if that has Jordan B. Peterson in it, then I'd question Unity's morals even more. Unity doc. Pinstripe was his first game, right? About Pinstripe by Atmos Games. Unity developer profile. It's a 3-minute and 36-second video.
Just before you guys came over to my house today to film this, I was like, why are they coming to the suburbs of South Carolina? Like, I'm literally 5 minutes away from where I grew up. A normal guy in a normal city. So, why am I obsessed with making this game?
My name is Thomas Brush. I have a full-time job, but I work on Pinstripe early in the morning, and I work on Pinstripe through lunch, and then I work on Pinstripe when I come home at night. I love being a lone wolf. I do the illustration, I do the development, I do the music, I write the story.
I always knew I wanted to tell stories, but I didn't play video games very often because my brothers wouldn't let me play them. But that was fine because I was enjoying it. It's kind of like watching a movie. And so if you play my games now, they're not really about gameplay. With Pinstripe, it's more of a story and it's an experience of this distinct and atmospheric adventure game. It's about this ex-minister who finds himself in hell, and it's up to him to explore this crazy, strange world and look for his lost daughter.
What is it with dads and losing their daughter? My God.
Kind of the point of the game is to find out what happened, and eventually maybe find some rest and redemption. I've been working on Pinstripe for 3, going on 4 years now. I think that's the hardest thing, is to continually remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing.
Are all Unity developer profiles like this? Are they all, or is this like user submitted? Is this like Thomas made this
When you
and
don't have a
submitted it?
team, it basically triples or quadruples the amount of time that's
That
gonna be
was
spent making this
uncomfortably close.
It's like the myth of the guy who's pushing the rock up the hill. Why are you spending 3 years pushing this rock up this hill? It doesn't look like there's an end in sight. And so, when are you gonna finish this thing?
Alright, this is the clip we saw in the other
It's
video
almost
just
like
now.
my last chance to prove to myself that my dreams when I was a kid weren't silly. That I can actually be an artist. But you have to just trust.
Jago, you're a legend. You are an absolute legend. So again, right? Jago just sent me a video, because he is an absolute legend.
Dit is een dringende oproep
No.
aan iedereen die hardop zich...
Go away with your shitty webinar. Go away with your ultimate game dev course. Stupid ass bullshit. Jago just found a clip.
Genuine, but you are, you know, the low rung occupier of that role. And of course you're going to feel like you're an imposter if you have any sense, because you're just barely there. You just made the transition. That's...
If we go to this one.
Normal for indie game developers.
Oh, everyone deals with that.
And we go back to this one.
It's okay. You know, that's not a problem. First of all, you have to understand that everyone with any sense who isn't narcissistic feels that. And it's actually an indication of your mental health and your competence.
So this is basically this. So why in the world is there no reference, no credit to this clip? Why is there no credit to Chris Williamson, who actually had this conversation with Jordan B. Peterson, and Thomas is just using it, and then
every time
he very
you make
cleverly,
a status shift as you move upwards, of course you have imposter syndrome.
He keeps the audio of that clip running under this shot, and then crediting his 2017 Unity doc as if it's part of one and the same thing. He's creating a level of authority, like a level of expertise by how do you say, by kind of allowing the viewer to deduce that Thomas had this conversation with Jordan Peterson in his 2017 Unity doc. In the very best case, it's accidental. In the very worst case, it is misleading and unethical. Make it that way you will.
Because when you first make a transition into a new role, you are an imposter.
My brain told me I was creating a silly game with a silly premise. It told me I wasn't a good project leader. It told me I was wasting time, money, and that I better stop now before it's too late. So I hopped on Discord and ripped the Band-Aid off. I told my wonderful team that all their hard work was shelved. I was devastated. I was honestly really disappointed in myself. And when I'm disappointed in myself, I usually call my dad. And that was that. Father was buried. So we moved on to a completely different game. Like a completely different game. It was a game about a little dog. Now I was convinced that this was the path for us. Fun little doggies sell better.
Why does this look this good? Like, this is another one of those mistakes. This is exactly the type of shit that I want to debunk, because it's setting entirely the wrong idea for people that are watching this video that don't understand this. When you make a game, you want to prototype as fast as possible. You want to find what makes this game fun, right? That's what you want to do. And if you want to do that, you don't want to spend time on making shit look good, right? Which is what this is. It just looks relatively good. It looks attractive, right? You want to, because your game needs to be fun without the attractive color palette and without the story and without all of these nice little varnishes and nice little layers that are not important until you find a game that even in its like in its like gray boxing stage is fun. Because again, fun games get played. Pretty games get clicked, right? But if they're just pretty and not fun, then they'll get refunded and you'll get a bad rep. So please don't do that.
Better. Violent shooters aren't really marketable. People don't like guns. Guns are bad.
That is totally not true. Could it be that it looks good because it's YouTube content? Absolutely. He's a marketer, not a game developer. Guns are not bad. You just had a shitty game. Because if guns are bad, why in the world are Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Battlefield kind of had a bad few years, but why are all these games making more money than ever if guns are so bad, if guns are not marketable, right? It's just stupid. It's just stupid.
Bad. Blood. Bad. Monsters. Bad. And so my team reluctantly moved on to working hard on this dog game.
Don't get me wrong, the dog game is freaking awesome. I love it, and we're gonna keep working on it.
But there was this tiny little voice in the back of my head, perhaps, I don't know, an echo of that confidence that I had at the beginning of Father's creation. And this voice reminded me of why I started the game to begin with. This constant dialogue of confidence and insecurity, it kind of created this never-ending, maybe you would call it a for loop. I didn't know something was wrong, but my wife did. We were actually on our way back from hanging out with some friends. She told me that, Thomas, you're anxious all the time. I told her I no longer struggled with generalized anxiety, that I cured that a long time ago with fitness and healthy eating, and we moved on. Of course, a week later, I realized she was right. I was in a constant state of feeling regret about dropping my previous project, wasting money, letting my team down, insecurity about this new game, constant confusion about why I felt confused and insecure on a daily basis. It was a mess.
So I looked for a solution, and I found it in a gummy. Now, don't get me wrong, it's totally legal,
and obviously I don't advocate for this kind of thing, but I'm just gonna be honest here and say that Delta really worked for me.
Oh my god. Oh my absolute fucking god. Did he really just recommend gummies as a way of treating what I'm by no means a clinical physician or a psychologist or anything of the kind, but what to me looks like a depressive episode or general anxiety or any kind of severe insecurity that would lead to depressive episodes? Did he really just do that?
I've been a JavaScript developer for a while now, and I feel ready to become a senior. But they told me I need.
You think that this material universe...
Because even if, right? YouTube's telling me that this part has been replayed the most often, probably because as many people were absolutely fucking shocked that he's doing this. Don't do what I do. I don't advise this. You cannot, for the love of God, you cannot say that, but say that all of these things were resolved because of you fucking gummy you found, and then show some kind of really colorful, really interesting looking thing as if you're super powerful now.
Now, obviously I'm exaggerating here, but it does calm me down, and my brain stopped.
Absolutely legal. Do you want to know why you're calmed down? Because there's likely THC in it, which calms you down. Again, THC, which is the active ingredient for, I believe it's weed. I think that's the correlation. THC can be very helpful in treating depressive or post-traumatic stress disorders, right? Totally can be, right? If I'm taking it off of any advice I've gotten in the past on mental health from registered clinicians and registered psychologists, right? But in every single case, this is entirely personal. If you are, I know I'm going super serious here. I'm sorry about, well, not sorry about that. I think this needs to be said, because this guy over here is recommending it to an audience that is likely too young for this. Yeah, gummy bears are not medicine, exactly. Too young for this, and a general audience that needs, if they are suffering from similar issues, they need to go to a psychologist. They need to go to their doctor or their GP or whatever term you use in your country to indicate, a medical professional. Because they can diagnose you and give you the appropriate treatment. Now, I want to check a thing. I really hope there's no link in here. Luckily, there is no link in here. Good. It is entirely, totally dangerous to recommend any kind of medication or any kind of treatment plan as a catch-all solution, especially when you have the influence that Thomas Brush has. 308,000 people have subscribed to his videos, and he's out here recommending gummies to fix whatever depressive episode he was going through, right? Anyone that will feel a little bit sad or is entirely undiagnosed is much more likely to take advice from their friendly neighborhood YouTuber who they like because they make funny haha content, right? Which is totally a natural thing to do. And I don't blame anyone for doing that. Rather than to go to a doctor and have a serious conversation about their mental health. I'm lost for words. I don't know how with an appropriate sense of ethics or appropriate morals you could even recommend this. You could even talk about this in this video, in this format, in this context. I don't get it. I am baffled.
I just sat quietly, watching Severance in the cold dark of my bedroom. My brain was quiet, nothing was there, I could breathe. I fell asleep and woke up. My anxiety,
oh boy, here we go.
My self-doubt, it was all gone. I felt like I could breathe again. I felt like myself again. And I decided to just go play the Father demo one last time. I opened up the GDC demo and honestly,
Where are you? Eve.
I loved it.
Eve!
The combination of taking a couple...
Apparently, I stopped the video too early. And turns out that, yeah, he literally just said that the gummies fixed his depression, his anxiety, the spinning feeling in his head. It calmed everything down. It made him feel, I guess, blissful is a way you could say it, because of the gummies. This fucking guy.
Couple months off,
Jesus.
and a subtle boost of, relaxation, spurred on by my tasty treat, transported me back to my old self.
Spurred on by my tasty treat. He just keeps recommending the gummies. He's constantly recommending which are effectively drugs, right?
The one that actually made games, for fun and didn't worry about marketability and profit margins. And that's when I walked into my office and I made perhaps one of the best decisions I've ever made. After playing the Father demo, this new version of Thomas, or I guess the old Thomas, felt the urge to just quickly email dozens of publishers. So I found their email addresses, and within an hour, I had emailed dozens of publishers, the Father demo, and the pitch deck.
What?
For those of you who don't know, a pitch deck is just a website of your game's trailer, a demo, and some text explaining your vision for the game. The email responses immediately began popping up in my inbox. Offers, conversations, meetings, ecstatic publishers across the world wanting to publish Father.
Gaming while high is a different experience. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You could almost say that a balanced work-life schedule plus variety in what you're doing helps you stay sane. Now, obviously, for those that, even when they have that, still feel like crap most of the time, seek help. Please do. I did it. I feel much better now. I still don't feel great all the time. I have... Hey, thanks for... Mr. Tommy Boy, thanks for the follow. I really appreciate that. I still don't feel great some of the time. I have a session planned upcoming Thursday morning with my psychologist, just to go for a walk, just to talk about how I'm feeling, and just to kind of like get out these thoughts that are circling in my head, right? And it's been the best experience ever. But please do that through someone who is licensed to give you the right kind of treatment. Do not take advice from what, in my opinion, is a scumbag scam artist on YouTube recommending drugs to an audience who has no idea how, or likely has no idea to handle with these kind of feelings, to deal with these kind of feelings. And then on top of that, he also gives really shit game dev feedback. Like, I don't know what the YouTube guidelines are, but in my opinion, this video on its own should be breaking at least one of them. I don't know. Maybe someone else is more versed in that. I don't know.
The game. But the game is it's religious and dark and violent. It's about the Garden of Eden. You guys don't want this. I was still underselling my game while I was pitching it. I mean, it's crazy. The things I was super insecure about during those 2 months, like the retelling of a story from the Bible, those were actually the things the publishers were thrilled about. So here I am. I have my confidence back. We haven't signed with a publisher just yet. We're still talking to a few. But I am confident in saying that we're making Father, and it's going to be freaking awesome. I want to thank my team, and I also want to thank you guys for just kind of bugging me all the time about Father, because a lot of you have been wondering where it is. It really helped me just reconsider ditching the game. So thank you so much. But it's not over. We're making this thing. Be sure to download the game.
Okay. This guy. And let me see what the comments are, right? Also, Jonas Tyroller, I'm sorry, this is a really bad take. I like your content, generally speaking. This is a bad take, and this is bad advice. Your transparency is admirable and encouraging. Is it transparency? I guess a little bit, right? He's obviously sharing how he's feeling and how he's kind of gone through that, and that's fine. But all of this and all of these comments that I'm scanning over right now are all just talking about the fact that the game is coming back, right? But that means that the message of, use drugs to solve your anxiety, is something that was seen, that was taken in, but it's not something that people actually are talking about now as something that is bad, right? This is crazy to me. I followed Thomas for years, ever since I started messing around with the game. They've kind of refreshed him and call him on stuff. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that you think that, and I'm glad that I've been able to provide some insight. There's still a lot more to go through, because he uploads a video so often, and it's so oftenly filled with just nonsense. Let's do a random one. Let's do a random video. It's the last video I'll do tonight. God, I'll never not get scared by that. Let's do a random video of these. Oh, this is almost too tempting. Of these videos here on screen, you guys pick one. You guys pick whichever one you want. We'll go through it, and I'll call out the shitty advice. A lot of these just seem like cheap marketing plays, and that's exactly what they are. And again, if the honesty was there, if this was a channel about learning how to market your games, then I think that's fine. I still don't think you should recommend drugs to solve anxiety, unless you're a registered clinician or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But in essence, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that he's using this semi or even pseudo authoritative position, this expertise, because he managed to market 2 games like nuts, get lucky with a Kickstarter, make a bunch of money, and release them to relatively okay reviews, and relatively okay-ish reception. Like, they never really went viral or anything. Yeah, cool, I guess, great, but this does not make you the kind of guy that can share all of this information and pretend like it is just the truth, right? That's just not the case, in my opinion, right? After watching you, I've followed him on all socials. Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that that I'm helpful. Like, I am by no means an authoritative or like a super expert or anything like that. So if I say anything and you think to yourself that sounds like shit, call me out on it, please do, because then we can have that discussion and we can talk about it and we can, you know, find the best conclusion or the best advice or whatever, right? I'm totally fine with that. But like, that conversation needs to exist at all times, no matter, you know, where we are in life. But yeah, I don't think that Thomas Brush knows how to do that. Yeah, that basically. Mr. Tommy Boy, is there anything specifically, like in terms of advice, that you've gotten either from a Thomas Brush video or just somewhere else, where you're now questioning if that was the right thing to do, or is there any questions you have in general? Then in the meantime, we'll there's so many good videos to get into here. Don't quit your job to make games. True. What's it for you make your first game? 25 game dev tips and tricks. 25 in 8 minutes. Wow. How does a game dev sold 3 million copies of his game? Where's Duke Nukem on the front? Duke Nukem was made by Insomniac, I want to say. Duke Nukem. No, Gearbox. Sorry. My bad. Yeah. And I mean, this was 1991. Gearbox has had 30 years to sell 3 million copies, you know. Thomas has an occasional neat trick dropped into his videos, but most of it is just for YouTube views. Yeah, exactly. And those neat tricks are cool, right? But they are by far in the minority when it comes to all the shit advice that he shares. Honestly, I haven't learned a thing from a Thomas video, and I've watched a ton. I followed him wanting to learn, but it's almost clickbait. It really is. Like, for example, if you're a student wanting to make games, watch this. Okay, all right, because I've got a pretty outspoken opinion about game dev schools and stuff like that. So let's take a look. This is cool. I don't know what it is, but very cool.
If you're a student wanting to make a game, should you go to game dev school?
Yes.
Or if you're in college, should you drop out to begin your game dev
No.
journey?
God, no.
I had the honor of chatting with Scott Miller, the mind behind what I would call the first independent games, Wolfenstein 3D and Duke Nukem. Stick
cool.
around, because Scott's going to tell us his story of starting a game studio despite those around him telling him to finish college. And just a quick FYI, there's still some seats left for the Black Friday 50% off sale. For my program, Full-Time Game Dev, click the link in the description. All right, let's do this. Okay, so let's talk really quickly about the college years, and that's, for me, that's where
This is a blatant lie. I'll teach you everything I've learned in my 15-year career of starting a sustainable game studio. I believe Pinstripe was announced in that Unity doc in 2015, and he had been working at that point for 3 to 4 years, so let's take 4 years to really give him the benefit of the doubt, so that makes it 2011, so that means 11 years ago. And he did not have a sustainable game studio at that point, right? He had a sustainable game studio after Pinstripe was released, and even at that point it's still questionable, right? If that's sustainable or not, right? You made a bunch of cash, but can you sustain it? Up to now, it seems like he can through the use of YouTube, may I add, but, you know, again, blatant lie.
I really started focusing on making games. Just side note, my story was, you know, I made like $20,000 for my first game.
Also, this is not a live stream. Why is this coming up? Is this like testimonials, right? Let's see how many
right
come up.
before I went to college. And so this question popped in my head, which was like, should I keep going to college or should I build a studio? Because I just made 20 grand. That's sort of a proof of concept. But I just stuck with it through college and got a degree that I really hated. And I'm curious about your story because it's kind of like similar to mine, but you made a different decision.
So while I was going to college, I was making these games. And so they would pay a couple $100s for these things, but they wouldn't take your rights. They would only want them exclusively for 1 year. I can make some more money out of these, I think, but I didn't know how. I didn't, retail publishers wouldn't return my letters. You didn't email people back then. You sent them letters. So I decided to release a couple of my games online on BBS's. I had 2 text adventures that I released, and I released the full game and asked for people to send me some money if they liked it, and I hardly get any checks at all. And then I had these cross games. I had these 3 cross games, and I decided to try something new, and I released just one of them to BBS systems, and I asked people there was an ending screen when you finished it. If you like this, send me some money. I forget what it was, $20 or $30, and I'll send you the other 2 episodes, which each contain like 20 levels each or something. And that was the secret. That actually worked. People will pay for what they already have.
Is this not Thomas recorded content? Because it seems like it. Seems like he's having a one-on-one chat with what's this guy's name? Ben Miller? Scott Miller. Oh no. Really?
In their hand, but they'll pay for something extra that they will get. So that really started to work. And for like a year,
29th.
I
started.
That is
12 days ago.
Checks just start coming in the mail. And think about how hard it is for someone to write a check and send in the mail. And yet, I made over $100,000 that first year. And
in college.
I kind of knew I was onto something. And I was, I was a senior in college at this time. And $100,000 back in 1990 is probably $250,000 now. So it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And I knew I was onto something, so I was like, do I finish my senior year? I had like a semester and a half to go, and I said, this is too big. I think I'm onto something. I need to drop out and see what I can do here. And my friends were all like, Scott, man, you're crazy. Finish your degree at least now. And I was like, I remember talking to them. I can always come back if this doesn't work out. I'm not that big of a deal. So. So I quit and made this my first full-time gig, and within a year, all my friends were working for me. So it totally worked out. Totally worked out.
Were you going to school for code or
computer science degree?
Okay. Like a lot of my audience, they're students in high school, and they're wondering, should I go to college to get a degree in computer science or like game design? And I tell them, it depends on what your goals are. Do you want to be in AAA, or are you an entrepreneur? Are you a self-starter, or do you like to sort of get led by somebody else? And just curious, any advice you have about that?
I'm always scared to give my advice because I'm afraid to send people.
Are we sure this is not Thomas's content? Because it almost seems like it. Scott Miller talking about how he started. Oh no. Wait. Can we find a link to what the original is? I hate all these ads, man. Fuck me. Can we find the original footage? Oh, this is a different Scott Miller. Duke Nukem. Interview. Yeah, I'll find a link to this at some point, but this seems relatively
a bad
one-on-one.
path that they may regret, because it really is a very personal decision. But I will say that in all the time we've ever hired anyone, we've never cared if they've had a degree or not. That's never a question.
And that is totally fine, right? That is not like we at the company I work for now relatively do the same thing, right? Where if someone really shows a skill, we don't care if they happen to have a degree or not. Like, that's fine. However, going to a university course for specifically game development, and there are plenty of shit ones out there, so you really need to do your research. There's some good ones. I went to one that was particularly pretty good. Will definitely give you a lot more info, a lot more structured info about how to become a good game developer or game designer or game programmer or whatever, as opposed to trying to do it all yourself. Because you're going to learn a lot of bad things when you're trying to do it yourself, aka by watching Thomas Brush videos.
Question we ask? Never. We just simply look for, their, a display of their talent. If they're an artist, let's see some art. If they're a coder, let's see some samples of code.
Yeah, it's great
advice. If they're a modeler, let's see your models.
Yeah.
It never even occurs to me to ask, do you have a degree or not?
No.
It just doesn't even occur to me. Yeah. For a lot of studios, that's how it is. Now, like you said, for AAA studios and stuff, they may be more concerned, especially if you're going for, like, marketing, for instance, stuff like that. I think, it's reasonable to expect to have a degree. But if you're a good coder, you're going to get hired.
Yeah.
Just based on, demos that you've put together that really display your talents.
Right.
Maybe if you're not a good coder, then you need to go to school and get that kind of training and build up your craft and so on. So it's a very, it's really, my advice is it's not universal. You really have to weigh, the pros and cons for yourself.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, in our case, a degree doesn't matter at all.
You just don't. Yeah, you won't look at the degree. Like you haven't even asked for.
Never have even asked.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. Like, I have a small team. I just anytime I get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, I want to work with you guys," I just say, "Where's the portfolio?" Like, that's really what I'm looking for. I just want to know.
Okay, so this is a genuine video between them two. Cool. Scott Miller here has some really great advice, which is totally fine. But it is really Scott Miller giving the good advice here, right? Like Thomas, is really not adding much here. Like, Scott Miller is Scott Miller just could have made a video talking about what he just talked about, and it would have been the same video, right? So, it's again that level of, I guess this video is kind of like less bad than the other ones, right? Because this one sort of still gets to the point. But my God, a lot of these are so bad. They're so bad. Okay, let's watch one more, because I'm feeling particularly engaged, if you will. Seeing as Thomas is, making me suck that Google teat, as he talked about himself that he's not doing, which he is doing. Oh right, this is the original video. This is the full 1 hour version of that interview with Scott Miller. I did want to say though, like, Scott Miller makes great, it makes a great point. But this was a very different time. This was 1991 and pre that, right? Like, sure, I understand that now 3 million copies have been sold to Duke Nukem, but that's because it's a classic, right? Over the past 31 years. God. So, very different reasons to consider. Nowadays, there are so many great courses for game development, for game design, for game programming, whatever, that it is much more beneficial, not for that piece of degree, not for that paper, it's for all the skills you learn during that course. That's what this is about. It's not about getting the paper, it's about learning those skills. And honestly, you are much more likely, in my opinion, to be much more broadly educated in many different skills when you go through a course, rather than picking up separate YouTube tutorials, right? Because there's a certain level of discipline that's required as well when you try to do it yourself. You can learn all these things online. Totally you can. Absolutely. 100% agree. But should you want to? Probably not. Probably not, right? So, for the love of God, if you can, and if you're in the position to go to a really good game design or game development course, then please do, especially if you're starting out. Right, which one were we going for? Oh yeah, this is why your indie game will fail. It's refreshing hearing that, though. Yeah, well, you know, it's a choice, and both choices are valid, right? Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's not possible to learn stuff, or to become a game developer just using online resources, because of course it is. But the chance of that succeeding over a structured course that's going to take you through multiple different areas, I think the course will be more likely, in my opinion. Whether you want to go AAA or indie doesn't matter for taking the course or not. Like I had a 4-year course, for example, and I went through all areas of game design. I even went through all areas of production, and by the end of it, I became, well, what I now believe, I'm a pretty good producer. And I've been a part of the production team for a lot of big projects, and there's 2 projects I'm working on now, which I can't say anything about, but that are equally as big, if not bigger than the previous stuff I've worked on. And all of that has been possible through the course that I followed, right? And I mean with course, sorry, I mean university course, not Thomas Brush's full-time $1,000 course, right? I'm not talking about that. So yeah, I always recommend university in general, unless it's, well, yeah, it really depends on the course. But, you know, send me whatever, if anyone is watching and they're thinking of taking a university course, send an English page my way. I'll look through it and I'll be able to kind of maybe get some idea, but obviously I won't be able to fully know if it's a good course or not. But yeah, anyway, that. So number 1 reason why your indie game will fail.
There fail to make a decent amount of money. What is it? Why do 90% of games out there fail to make a decent amount of money?
It's not 90%. It's more like 73%, but okay.
What is it about games like Cult of the Lamb or Minecraft that made them go viral? I had the honor of chatting.
Fucking Christ. Okay. Anyway, I won't say anything yet.
With Scott Miller, the mind behind Wolfenstein 3D, Duke Nukem, and
He's
Max
really milking
Payne.
his content, isn't he?
Stick around because Scott's going to tell us about the exact moment where Max Payne went from being a decent game to a great one, and how you can do the same for your games. Well, anytime I start a new project with my team, I do think about the ROI, right? I'm like, okay, are we going to make money off this thing? And you sort of have to like predict, is this worth investing my time and money in? So I want to go through the list here. Like, this might be an interesting thought experiment. Wolfenstein 3D. How did you know it was worth the time and the money to make that game? Did you just do it because you wanted to, or because you knew it was going to pay off?
Never even that kind of thought never even crossed my mind. Honestly, it's
Exactly.
just like
Exactly. I was so hoping he would say that, because it shouldn't be a worry in the first place unless you are a bigger studio. Like seriously, unless you are responsible for employees, like the wage you need to pay, and even then it's a question. It really is. Unless that's the case, this should not be a worry. And this is not the type of content that starting out game devs should learn about.
Yeah, let's make this game. It sounds cool. Let's do it. And whatever it cost, we just had total faith that it was gonna do well. It was never
because it was a very different time in which 3D games were basically unicorns, right? Like one would come along every so often, and they would be, it was a completely new field. Anything was possible. There was maybe 4 released every year, maybe even less than that. It was a very different time. Again, all of this is super different. All of it is great advice, but it was all an entirely different time. It is not advice that you would easily apply to something today, in my opinion. So
no one ever said, how much is it going to make? Are you sure? Is that too much? Whatever. That never ever came up, that kind of thinking. We just did it because it was cool, and we had total.
And that should be your entire motivation for the first 20 games you make. Do it because it's cool. Do it because you're going to learn something. Don't do it because you want to make money, because you're not going to, and that's fine.
Faith, it was going to pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same way. Like, obviously my projects are a lot smaller, but like the projects that I've made for console, it's like originally I was much more pure in my thinking, but the older I get and the more the budget increases, I start to think about that stuff. I'm like, do I really want to invest $500,000 to $1 million in this project? Did you think that way with like Max Payne? Was there a question of the...
I highly doubt Thomas Brush is investing $500,000 or $1 million in his projects. I really hope that's not the case because they don't look like it.
marketability of it?
I'll die by that standpoint.
You know, our original budget for that game was $2 million. It went to $4 million. We didn't blink twice about putting that extra $2 million in it.
Yeah.
Didn't blink twice. It's like we knew we were onto something.
Again, very different times. Very different scope. Not applicable.
Let's make it happen.
Was it the bullet time that really stuck out as being onto something?
You know, the bullet time didn't even come until halfway into the development. That was never like one of the initial pillars of the project. This was something that originally it was just this gritty noir detective story, and it was going to have the John Woo elements in it. In other words, we had it in there to where like if you ran into a room and killed, like there was 5 bad guys there, the last guy you killed would die in a very slow motion cool way, and
that's awesome.
Add to the atmosphere and the coolness of the whole thing. We had the photorealistic source textures as a key pillar for the game. We had a bunch of key pillars for the game for sure. It had an amazing story. We knew the story was going to be really great.
Yeah.
But the bullet time idea didn't come along until I was watching some of the slow motion deaths, and I was actually in Finland at the time, and they were showing me this because they had just kind of gotten into the game, these slow motion deaths. And this was probably 18 months, if not more, into the development. And I was like, guys, we got to make this something that you or Max Payne can control. This is too cool to have it just be this, death for enemies.
Mechanics, things you have control over as a player. You input something, you get something out. Why is Thomas getting all of this great advice and he's just plainly ignoring it and just creating shit advice?
How can we make it to where Max Payne can control slow motion? And so they went to work on that, and they put together the bullet time. They got it working. The next time I saw them, I said, I think I have a perfect name for it too. Let's call it bullet time. And also, when bullet time mode is activated, let's change the way the screen kind of looks, and also add a heartbeat to it. And that rounded it out and made it perfect.
It makes me wonder if Max Payne would have been as successful as it was had you not had that idea.
There's no doubt it would not have been that successful.
Yeah.
We got so lucky coming up with that.
There you go. We got so lucky coming up with that. I know. You did. Again, very different time. And afterwards, everyone is a fucking professor because you can kind of like dissect it and kind of like understand what the result was. But this is, again, not very great advice for indie gamers that are starting out today. They need to just focus on the earlier advice from Scott, which was do it because it's cool, and I said do it because you want to learn something. Like those two things can be combined, because that's really how you're going to make great games. Don't worry about, as Thomas said, putting $500,000 or $1 million into a fucking project, because you won't, because you don't have that kind of money, and you won't have that kind of money for a long time, which is okay. That is fine. That is not a problem. Please stop worrying about fucking commercial viability when you're just starting out. It's not important.
I still think the game would have done well, but obviously bullet time was the key feature, and looking back on it now.
I think the answer involves a hook, right? I'm looking at your list of games here. Wolfenstein, Max Payne, Duke Nukem in particular, and also Prey. They all had a very unique and distinct hook, right? Wolfenstein's hook, I feel like, was it's just the first-person shooter, right? Or one of the firsts.
It created a new category. That's the hook.
Right. So it's like, man,
it's like it's a twist on something else.
Telling my audience this lately because I've been thinking about it myself a lot. It's like
Thomas Diff Course now marketed interview of indie game publisher Scott Miller. Yeah, which is crazy to me. I kind of feel like Scott should have likely seen what actually came out of this, but he probably doesn't care. He's probably just on to the next thing. But I actually think this kind of hurts Scott's image a little bit. working with someone like Thomas, who has very questionable content at the very least.
It's so important to have a hook in a game.
I completely believe that your game has to have something unique and distinctive about it, or a hook that sets it apart from something else. This can be the stylized graphics that you're using. It can be, a game hook like bullet time or something.
Okay, so in this case, we're just talking about a generic hook, whereas Thomas was talking in the video about mechanical hooks, and that's where he was going wrong. But yeah, Scott is still right here, saying just a general hook is fine. It can be anything, as long as it's something unique-ish. But again, don't focus on this when you're starting out. Just make shit that you already that has been proven. Don't reinvent the wheel until you have quite a bit of experience under your wing. That's just
for Duke Nukem. We threw in a bunch of what we consider hooks. Let's have the character be talking. Let's have interactive environments. Let's have instead of being in some remote planet like Doom was, let's sit on Earth and have realistic environments like the streets of LA and stuff. And humor was a big factor in Duke. So we threw in a bunch of things for that game. And also, we invented a bunch of crazy weapons that, it had its stock weapons. We were like, well, we can have a couple of those like the shotgun, but let's invent some crazy new weapons like the shrink array, the ice gun and stuff like that. Let's go crazy with it. Let's do some things that no one else is doing. So you've got to be distinctive. That's the key, I think.
Yeah.
If you're not distinctive, then what are you? You're basically a copy of someone else's game.
Duke Nukem, from what I
can... Okay, cool. Again, Scott Miller is carrying the content here, right? Scott Miller has that info here. But again, it's in a entirely different context that is not entirely relevant anymore today, except for the bit about the hook. Obviously that is. But man, Thomas Brush, man. Thomas Brush. I think I'm going to do another stream about this in, I don't know, for like a week or so, maybe a little more. I'll pick out some more videos. We can talk a bit more about it. If there's any YouTubers, game dev YouTubers, indie game dev YouTubers that you guys see and where you think like, is this good advice? Yeah, the different thing that Duke Nukem did back in the day was that you could shoot up and down. Exactly. And again, it was such a different time. Anything was still possible. Like nothing was basically done before. So there was so much freedom. There was so much areas to explore into. Nowadays, that's getting a lot harder to do. So, yeah, it's still very possible. But again, just focus on that. Don't focus on marketability, on commercial viability. Don't focus on taking gummies to fix general anxiety, like Thomas was recommending actively drugs to people that are not diagnosed. And should talk to a clinician or a psychologist first. Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is absolutely insane. Okay, and then probably soon, hopefully before the end of this year, which is only 3 weeks away. Yay. Hopefully before the end of this year, we can do another stream where I just go through all of the things that I've learned over the past few years, and we can have that conversation, and you guys can call me out on anything that sounds stupid or wrong, and then we can have that conversation, and we can all learn together, and we can become better game developers together. Yeah, let's do that, right? Let's do that. I'm gonna press this button, which puts me on the big screen like that. There we go. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I want to thank you all very much for sticking around here with my rant about this. I will rant about this more because it needs to stop, right? This kind of shitty content needs to stop because it's actively hurting the game dev community, and as indie game developers, we should all stick together. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the rant. If you want to get notified when I'm live next, click the follow button somewhere. I don't know where it is on Twitch. I've got no idea. Click that follow button. If you want to talk to me directly, which is totally possible, just ping me. I only sleep for 8 hours a day every now and then. If you want to talk to me directly, feel free to just join the server. This is entirely optional. Don't do it if you don't want to be in another Discord server. But yeah, join that if you do want to. And then, we can talk more about it. You can ask me all kinds of questions, and we can just, really learn a lot together. But beyond that, thank you all very much for watching. You are all awesome. And I wish you all a great morning, afternoon, evening, day, whatever it is where you are right now. And we'll talk to each other again soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.